Yeah, welcome to The Big Issue on 97.3 CTFM and on ChannelOne Television. I am Umaru Sanda Amadu. The Big Issue is a show that puts all the big stories of the week onto one table and bring all the big brains to do the analysis. And there are so many stories that we are going to look at for you here today. We have returned our compatriots who have been subject of attacks, xenophobic attacks in South Africa. Kudos to us. How do we resettle them? That's an issue. The rains have come and Accra is flooded again, but that's not the only issue. The Wager Dam has been spilled and the resultant flooding in Tetegu and those areas has happened once more. What did we fail in and would we succeed this time around? That is the question we'll be asking. And then perhaps one of the biggest stories is over the past 5 years, there's been debate over whether or not Ghana should have a law that prohibits the activities of LGBTQI. Now, that law was passed, or that bill at the time was passed by the then Parliament, which is called the 8th Parliament. But in between moving from the Chamber of Parliament in Osu to the Jubilee House, that bill was arrested and it never got to the Jubilee House for the president to sign. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo ceased to be president at the end of midnight, January 6, 2025. And President Mahama, who had campaigned that he would sign the bill if he returned to power, is in power. Now, the bill has been sponsored. It has been passed by Parliament. Now, the question is, the bill that has been passed, has it been too watered down to the extent that it has become a useless piece of legislation where it will not serve the purpose for which it was enacted? Or the MPP who are making this claim are simply resisting the passage of this bill, both while in government and in opposition? That's the question we have on the discussion table today. I am Umaru Sanda Amadu. Join me by sending your messages to the show on WhatsApp number 0204 447 033. 0204 447 033. On WhatsApp, that is the telephone number. If you want to send it on an MTN number, it's 0539 986 996. 0539 986 996. You can join the show on Facebook. You can join us on YouTube. And we are also on a host of affiliate stations. If you want to go on X and send me a message, X is a platform that used to be called Twitter until Elon Musk took over. You can tweet at me by mentioning my handle at Umaru Sanda, or at City973, or at ChannelOne TV GH. And the world will hear what you think. You're welcome to The Big Issue. I introduce my panelists when we come back. You're welcome back to The Big Issue on 97.3 CTFM and on ChannelOne Television. I've outlined the issues for you, 3 issues that we plan to look at here on the show today. The xenophobic attacks in South Africa and Ghana's decision to evacuate, and a number of officials in South Africa being angry with the fact that we have gone to evacuate our people who were being attacked by them. That's an issue we'll be looking at. Then we'll talk about flooding, something that happens every year, or maybe twice every year. And we complain, we wear Wellington boots, we go use canoes and we talk, and then it is over, then we forget. Is it an attitudinal issue or is it a systemic failure? We'll deal with that one on The Big Issue. And then the piece of legislation that has passed again in Parliament, so twice. It went once, it never became, or it never matured. The issue of ripeness came up. It never matured. You remember the Supreme Court decision and all of that. Then it has been passed again yesterday after lots of debate and controversy. The question is, MPP, you rejected it at the time, or at least that's what the NDC is saying, that when the bill was passed, when you were in government, you never allowed the president then to sign. Now, we have brought the thing, we say we want to sign it. You are still saying we should not. The MPP says, no, this is not the one you asked Akufo-Addo to sign. This is a different thing. And that you have done pentimamento, and that this is actually window-dressed bill that you have brought. So those are the issues I will be looking at here. I have a couple of guests that will be joining me via Zoom. But in studio, let me introduce from directly facing me, the Member of Parliament representing the only people in Ghana who have diamonds. He himself has diamond in his pocket as we speak. The Honorable Bernard Bediako is NDC MP for Akwetia. You're welcome.
Thank you. Mischief detected and ignored.
Ignored. That's it. That's it. Let's leave it like that. Let me introduce my next guest. And he, I know, will not say that I'm mischievous. He replaced the MPP vice president that never was. I don't know whether he will be nominated again. The man from the royal home of Mensia, the Mensia South Member of Parliament now, Nana J. Bafewa. Council, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
Very well.
See, I'm changing. How is Mensia?
Oh, by grace of God, it's good.
Everything good?
By grace.
Nice, nice. I want us to, let me go on Zoom. Do I have my guest on Zoom? Dr. Nana Yaumreku. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Is it Dr. Mreku I have or Michael?
No, this is Dr. Michael.
Good. Dr. Michael Akagbo is a programs officer manager with the Human Rights and Social Inclusion side of the Center for Democratic Development. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time this morning. We'll also be joined by Dr. Nana Yaumreku, who is an international relations expert. We'll talk about South Africa. We'll be joined by a number of other people when we come to deal with the flooding issue. Engineer Kosi Dede will be joining us. Engineer Abdullahi Muhammad will be joining us. And then Desmond Apia, who is a former chief resilience officer with the AMA, will be talking about that. Let me start off now with Nana Eje Bafewa. Council, I should start with him. Oh. Okay, before I start with him, then let me bring what our... They didn't pass. You were all part of it.
You see, you have... No, you...
Let me explain to you.
I am...
No, you are the one...
supposed to... You are the ones... No, senior, okay. You do.
I know what I do. I'm going to toss a coin. Before I toss the coin, I'm going to Ni Ayikwe Okan. Ni Ayikwe Okan is our parliamentary affairs reporter. He watched from a very privileged view what had transpired and sent this report.
Parliament on Friday commenced the clause-by-clause consideration of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the Anti-LGBT Bill. The Minority Caucus strongly objected to proposed amendments seeking to exempt sanctions for individuals who provide legal advice or legal representation to persons identified as LGBT. The amendment also seeks to exempt journalists and media houses reporting on LGBT-related news or current affairs in the course of their work, as well as professionals providing medical, surgical, psychological, or counseling services to such individuals. The proposed changes were fiercely opposed by the minority during proceedings on the floor of Parliament.
They are amending, Mr. Speaker, the clause 9, the very amendment they rejected in opposition. Today that they are in government, they are claiming that this is the bill they want. Mr. Speaker, they are virtually rendering the very thing they propose odious. Mr. Speaker, the very thing that they and Ghanaians, the people of Ghana can see through the double standard, the lack of principle. And I'm putting it to you, Majority Leader, that your side lack principle. You say you are passing a law. Which law?
And so if I find it highly problematic, any attempt by this House to push any of these exceptions in, we will resist it. And if the House will use their majority numbers to push it through, I, as a sponsor, will advise myself accordingly.
Very well. You are entitled to advise yourself. Yes, Majority Leader.
NDC is passing.
Media raise strong issues because they think that we are violating the right to free expression. Professionals such as lawyers raise strong issues that we are violating their professional freedom and violating the rights of people to legal services. Then academics, universities. I was on the committee, you remember, the previous parliament, and these civil society groups made a very strong case. So what the committee is trying to do is to narrowly set out those exceptions where when you speak, you will not be considered as promoting or supporting LGBTQ.
An act to provide for human sexual rights and family values and related matters.
Honourable members, the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2025 is duly read for the third time and passed.
Co-sponsor of the anti-LGBT bill, Reverend John Tim Fodjo, later addressed journalists accusing the NDC of being influenced by some foreign countries to introduce the amendments.
So if you go and introduce a whole exceptions of the real targets of this law, then we don't have any law at all. And here, they are, as we speak, they are hurriedly trying to pass it. And all these things came about because they engaged certain foreign countries who just came in and dictated that if they don't introduce this clause, this amendment, and insert, is that amendment proposed, add the following new subclause, subsection 2, does not apply to. The subsection 2 that does not apply to is a subsection that proscribes the support, advocacy, promotion of LGBT activities. And you are saying that they can undertake all those activities.
So that is the Honorable Reverend Tim Fodjo, Asin South Member of Parliament, speaking at a press conference moments after the bill was passed by the House of Parliament. Now, why was the NPP opposed to this particular bill? We've heard the majority leader in a very heated argument with the minority leader. Eventually, the bill went through. The minority side did not oppose it in votes, and they did not abstain. They neither abstained, nor walked out, nor voted no. When I asked Reverend Tim Fodjo on Eyewitness News yesterday, he said that that was inconsequential. I would ask another member of the MPP side, who is in studio this morning, to ask how they voted when it came to it on this particular matter. But first of all, let's understand the difficulties they had with this bill. Council, so this bill was introduced as a private member's bill in the last parliament. You were not in that parliament. It went through, it never succeeded in becoming law. Now it has been reintroduced. What was the whole debate about from your side?
Context is very important. And so we need to put things within the right context so that your viewers will appreciate the perspective of the minority. The first point that we need to appreciate is that by the end of the 8th Parliament, a bill had been passed called the Human Sexuality and Family Values Bill. That bill had been passed. The second point that people would have to appreciate is that in the 9th Parliament, what was sponsored for consideration by Parliament was the bill, exactly the bill that was passed in the 8th Parliament.
The one that was supposed to have been transmitted?
The one that was supposed to have been transmitted. And so it is that bill that was brought for consideration.
The complete work?
The complete work.
Which was already just waiting for signature?
Which was already just waiting for signature. And what was outstanding, like you said, was the signature. Indeed, it was the lack of the signature that brought all this controversy, or the decision at some point that don't bring it for signature, that generated this controversy. And so when a bill has already been passed, and that bill, don't forget, had the approval, the support of the minority at the time, which is the majority, the question will be, why is it that what you sent to Nana Akufo-Addo for signing, right, that he thought that let's allow the court to evaluate or to take a look at, for which reason he said, you know, don't bring it until the court has determined the matter, right? The noise you made, there was a lot of noise made at the time because they said, Nana Addo said he would not sign. At the time, if you recall, the same issues which they have put up or which they put forward by way of amendments were raised, but they were not ready to hear anything. they thought that it should be signed by the president of the time, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, irrespective of the issues that have been raised. They thought it should be signed by Nana Addo, irrespective of the pending court matter. So what has changed? What has changed today is the fact that when they had power, even to put the bill, which had been sponsored again for passage, on the order paper for consideration became a battle in the House. At some point, when it was put on the order paper for consideration, it vanished. And let me also put on record that it is the majority leader who chairs the business committee. And it is the business committee's duty to ensure that it gets onto the order paper. The business committee is dominated by the majority. And so it vanished from the order paper until this right honorable speaker said, this thing should be back on the order paper. I'm determined to make sure it is passed. This time, when he came with a lot of proposed amendments. A lot of proposed amendments. The very things that the previous government said were of concern and so should be amended. They now considers them necessary to put forward the amendment. And so why did we bastardize Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo? Why did we bastardize the previous government? Why?
Then what it means is that you are now adding them, as in you now agree, if, and this is not me admitting to what you are saying, I'll hear from them, but if it is true that what Nana Addo did not like in there is what has been removed now, then why don't you just let it go through? Because you didn't allow for the signing at the time because you thought that there were some issues with it. They have come and removed those issues so that it will be easy. Why are you fighting them?
No, we are not fighting them because we thought that it was so easy. It's for the lack of principle. What was good yesterday is good today. What was bad yesterday is bad today.
Except that this one was good for you in the past and it should be good for you this time too.
It should be good for us. No, listen, my brother. If you look at the letter which was transmitted to Parliament by Nana Addo, his point was that because of the pending litigation, right? But previously, there had been concerns, not just by the president at the time, there had been concerns by some section of Ghanaians about some provisions of the act. And so, you know, these were the concerns, but they were not ready to hear anything about it. Okay. The fact that it is being passed today in a much watered down form, you might think it is good for us, but we need to know who we are. The lack of principle is what we are talking about. If you listen to the minority leader, say they lack principle. My brother, look, we need to be politicians of principle. When we take a position, the position shouldn't flip merely because where we stood yesterday has flipped. That is really the issue.
So you wanted them to concede that they were unprincipled, and then that's it, you move with them?
Apart from that...
Or you wanted them to keep those amendments in the law?
That is the first point.
Okay.
The first point is that if you are principled, keep where you stood yesterday and pass it. Because don't forget, this bill is historical, not just because of what it stands for. It's because it's one of the few bills in the history of this country that has received judicial approval before it is passed. The one that was passed in the 8th Parliament. Mm-hmm. By December or November 2024, the Supreme Court had declared that it was constitutional. You don't get it better like that. That a bill before it is passed, the Supreme Court has reviewed the provisions and come to the conclusion that the bill is constitutional. And so if you are principled, right, and was so busily canvassing, right, strenuously for it to be passed, then stand by it. But if you are changing your position Let everybody know that your position is changing. That, for me, is the first point. The second point is this. The second point is that, my brother, we have to understand that a bill is not just in the title of the bill. A bill. The effect of it, the scope of it, what it represents, is not just in the title of the bill, i.e., Human Sexuality Bill. It is in the provisions of the bill. What you seek to do with the bill is in the provisions of the bill. It is not in the title. And so we have to ask ourselves that by the amendments, what the bill seeks to achieve, do we still have it in the body of it? And so it's not just the lack of principle.
So is that missing in the body?
With
the spirit of the law?
With the greatest of respect, it does, in many ways. What was passed in the 8th Parliament, in my humble view, personal view, was a more comprehensive one. A more comprehensive one that made sure that there was no hole for anybody to escape, right? Because
it was watertight.
It was watertight. Because you see, if you look at the teething issues we have started having as a country in respect of the LGBTQ community in Ghana, we're having issues of advocacy. People starting to rent places where they were hosting meetings. If you recall, there was an instance where some people had rented a place in the Ashoman area.
I think it's Hacho or something.
Hacho, Ashoman area. And we're starting to house people there. We're starting to breed or nurture, that kind of community in Ghana. If you recall, one of the issues that even came up had to do with some people starting to mount signages in town, billboards in town, to canvass LGBT issues. If you recall, you had some people deliberately coming to take pictures under the ACT, the Independence Act. If you recall, two gentlemen stood there fondling each other in a manner which very respectfully was offensive to most Ghanaians. We woke up one morning and their pictures were all splashed on social media and became a very topical issue all over Ghana. And so these were the issues that made people angry and felt that we needed to address them. We needed to address them in a manner which will result in the protection of the values of our community.
So the promotion was the issue?
The promotion was as much an issue to the commission of the act itself.
Than proscribing the act?
No. They were all together, because you're looking at promotion. You're looking at the act itself, and then the consequence of it. The consequence of it being the prescription. And then post the prescription, the punishment. So you're looking at four stages of it. Now, in terms of the promotion, you are looking at the form in which it can take. When you look at the old bill, you could tell that it envisages not just what we had experienced here, but what had happened elsewhere, right? Leading to the act or the practice of the LGBTQ gaining grounds in other countries. Because they have ways by which they do their things. Yeah. If you go to a place like England, ahead of this whole civil union and so on and so forth, it starts from somewhere. And so it was more comprehensive in nature because it had taken into account what had happened not just in our country, but elsewhere. And then steps were taken to make sure that these things, they didn't happen. In fact, let me give you one example. One example has been, and indeed is sensitive, but we need to look at it from the perspective of the old bill. One example had been the use of the promotion of, campaign against HIV/AIDS within the community and so on and so forth. We all know. And when you look at elsewhere, that is one of the routes by which some of these things have happened. And then when, in recent times, the American government took the position that USAID should pull out, we discovered that some of them in some countries were using the HIV/AIDS campaign, right, to actually fund and promote LGBTQ activities. An instance is South Africa. And during the Senate hearing in America, it became more pronounced that that has been some of the activities they have been doing. And so clearly, if you look at the bill in its old form, the fact remains that there was a deliberate attempt to have a comprehensive law that protected the Ghanaian values.
The question is, if you believe that the bill as was okay, and it should have gone through, it has judicial approval and all of that, your House of Parliament works through committees. It was a committee that worked on the bill and said that these things ought to be taken out after some further consultations. Is that not regular that a bill is brought to you and you make a lot of alterations
Who dominates that committee?
Parliament is seen as a whole, is it not?
Let me explain to you.
And your members are on that committee.
Let me explain to you.
At committee level, did they oppose the amendments?
Let me explain to you the workings of the committees in Parliament. Mm-hmm. The size of the committee, right, is determined by the numbers in the House.
Yeah.
And so, if you look at the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee, it's chaired by the majority. Now, the majority, based on their size, has more numbers on the Constitutional and Legal Affairs Committee. If you come to a committee hearing and it's being chaired by the NDC, your proposals can easily be rubbished. And he knows. He knows. For when they have taken a partisan position that this is our direction, my brother, your proposals won't matter.
Especially when they have a supermajority.
When they have a supermajority, your proposals won't matter. Sometimes you can have behind the scenes conversations with the chairman. And we do all the time. And behind the scenes, he agrees. The moment he comes and then there's some discussions amongst them, right? They take a certain view. And so you will make proposals, but those proposals may not be accepted. And so it is not to say that because he came to the committee and we sit on the committee, what has come out is our input. No.
But you see, I made a point, and I'm going to repeat it, that Parliament is a house of records. In the US, we know how each senator votes or each congressman votes. In Ghana, sadly, we still don't have the means of seeing electronically who voted how. But you can vote en bloc or walk out en bloc or abstain en bloc. You can choose to do all of those things. At committee level, did you vote yes or no? At least that will be on the record.
It doesn't happen.
And then yesterday,
it doesn't happen at committee level.
At committee, no, but when we watch the appointments committee, which is public to us, and we do know that there are nominees who are brought, and some are voted on, and some are not voted on.
When it comes to the workings of the committee, you don't vote.
Okay.
When it comes to, you propose.
Okay.
And the chairman can say, no, as for this one, I will not allow it.
Okay.
It happens. Now, let me...
But how about at plenary? What happened yesterday? Plenary, did you not vote?
Wait, let me tell you what happened at yesterday.
It was a voice vote.
Wait. Mm-hmm. So, in the chamber, and my brother knows, anytime there's going to be a business, particularly when we are considering a bill, at the stage where we are considering the clauses of the various bills, there is an indication. What happened yesterday was exceptional. And I'll tell you, there is an indication by leadership, the extent to which we are going to work. And so leadership would say, so for today, Mr. Speaker will ask, leadership, any indication?
This is off before the chamber or during?
No, during the chamber.
Okay, during the sitting.
During the sitting. Mm-hmm. Mr. Speaker, leadership, any indication as to how far we are going to go with this bill? And leadership would say, let's consider 10 provisions of the bill.
The clause by clause.
The clause by clause. Let's consider 10. Or let's make sure we finish today. It's under certificate of urgency, so let's finish. So there's always an indication. The indication yesterday by the leadership to which the Speaker agreed was not to pass the anti-LGBTQ bill yesterday. The indication was that we're going to consider 10 provisions. It was when they realized that Reverend Intim-Fojo was angry and he said he was washing his hands. And then at that point, they realized that there could be a withdrawal of the bill. Then they quickly moved. So yesterday, the plan was not to pass the bill yesterday. The plan wasn't. But they realized that we had seen through what they wanted to do. They wanted to pass a much watered down bill. And so the sponsors, Reverend Intim-Fojo, then started assembling the sponsors. He called my brother Emir, he called Nuruddin, and then they wanted to hold a press conference that they were withdrawing the bill and come and take further steps. It was when they realized that they quickly pushed it through. They had no plan of passing the bill yesterday.
But it doesn't make it illegitimate, though.
But there's an issue.
Okay.
There's an issue of the constitutionality of it.
Where?
It wasn't passed with the right quorum.
Was it raised?
It doesn't matter. A constitutional breach, you don't need to raise it. You see?
So what were the numbers in the chamber yesterday?
It was less than 50 yesterday.
There was a head count?
You don't have to. The record is there. Parliament is a house of record.
Okay.
The thing was covered even on television. So it's easy. You can easily count the numbers. There's the numbers, there's the quorum for ordinary business, right? And there's the quorum for decision making. At the point where the bill was being passed, you need to have the right quorum under Article 104 of the Constitution.
Is the quorum supposed to be at the time of the business or at the beginning of the sitting?
At the time of the business.
Okay.
At the time when the decision was being made.
So if you had 100 people, but by the time you got to the voting, there were only 7, you don't have quorum?
You don't have quorum.
Okay. So quorum is a continuous thing. It's
quorum
not...
is a At the material time when the decision is being made,
okay,
you should have quorum.
All right. So this means then that the passage was unconstitutional.
It was unconstitutional.
Would you want to test it?
We will consider all things, but it's not something that we've considered yet.
Very well. Okay.
But I want to put on record that they had no plan of passing it yesterday until they realized that there was confusion over what was being passed. And there was the potential that the sponsors will withdraw it because the sponsors felt betrayed.
Okay. Very well. Let me bring in your colleague, Honorable Bernard Bediako. The argument is that you had a document that you said was good. And you even said at the time that if Mahama was president, he would have signed it. And Akufo-Addo had refused to sign it. You had a new parliament. It's taken 15 months. You refused to have the same document transmitted because you would have just brought the same document, processed it, and sent to President Mahama to sign. You did not do that. And that you ended up bringing a watered-down document. Talk to us about your position yesterday.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother. Thank you to my senior. Yeah, and then good morning to your viewers and listeners and the very good people of Akwatia. Umaru, first and foremost, let me start off by where he ended. There are a few other things I would touch on. I mean, this is right. It's right. I'm not too sure what my senior is saying. Quorum is always presumed. It's always presumed. It is when you raise it, this is right. And he knows that what they do, or we do all the time, if you believe that there are issues of quorum, is to raise it. If you don't raise it, it is presumed to be regular. You were in the House. My respected minority leader was there. None raised it. Nobody raised it. In fact, the Honorable Intim was there. Fojo was there. Nobody raised it. So we proceed. I mean, this we don't have to spend so much time. It's always like that.
So quorum is presumed. Where the Constitution
if you don't, no. You see, if you don't raise it, you see now, the issue that you are raising is belated.
No, Omar,
you are now talking about.
This is a constitutional point.
No.
And it is very important for the education of your viewers.
Senior,
Wait, this is a matter of constitution. The fact is that quorum is not presumed. Please. There is no law in Ghana that says that quorum is presumed.
I'm trying to find a constitutional provision.
Don't look at Article 104.
I'm trying to read it for my honorable Bediako.
104.
I'll give you the time.
Let's read Article 104.
Yes. Do as the honest, honorable.
Let's read Article 104.
You read.
I'm opening it.
It's here.
It's here. Except as otherwise provided in this constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present. Except as otherwise. There's a proviso.
So you go back to that otherwise.
With at least half of all votes of the majority of members present and voting. With at least half of all the members of Parliament present. So, except as otherwise provided in this constitution.
So where does it provide otherwise?
Wait. Take it
Oh,
easy.
I'm following.
Matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members. Except
members, you are not done, please. Members present and voting.
He's helping you. He's helping you.
Present and voting.
Very important today.
With at least half of all members of Parliament present. And so, when you look at this provision, it tells you that quorum is that you should have half of all members present and voting. That is the quorum.
Okay.
The exception is where a provision of the Constitution provides otherwise. Okay. And so, if you are saying that quorum is presumed, you have to tell us the provision of the Constitution where quorum is supposed to be presumed.
Very well. Let me hear from him.
Clear.
So let me proceed. I have a totally different understanding.
Okay.
If you read it, if you read the Constitution, he said, except as otherwise provided. So if you have any provision in the same Constitution that, speaks to quorum, then you bring that in to nullify. That's what he says. Unless, Senior, allow me, please. I disagree totally with you, and I have that right. So let me proceed. Except as provided in this constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by votes of the majority of members present and voting. Present and voting.
Half of members, yes.
Please.
Did we have half of members
allow him to submit.
See, you said a lot of
I gave you more than 30 minutes.
It will be difficult for me.
You allow him to
allow
make his
me,
submission.
please. I have a lot to say. Present and voting. In fact, that. And then he said, with at least half of all members of Parliament present. So what do? If you think that at that stage, the people in there are not up to that half, as you claim, you raise it. The presumption is what? I'm not saying that if you don't raise it, and you see when we come to Parliament, often you have worked in Parliament a lot of time. Look, we sometimes even start the business of the House with a few members. When there is that discussion between leadership, and they feel that, no, let's proceed, even though we don't have the numbers. Don't raise it. Unless it is raised. And we don't have to belabor it. You've been in this job for quite some time. If you don't raise it, we proceed. There are authorities, copious or even judicial pronouncements on this. And if you give me time, I'll let you know.
Please proceed. You
so,
have the time.
so please, that one we shouldn't. Now, you see, where have we come from and why are we here? It's a simple one. In the 8th Parliament, a law was passed. A bill eventually got the approval of members of Parliament. And it was ready for assent by the President. In fact, I've heard arguments, and it was raised a day before yesterday, where some of my colleagues raised the issue as to whether the President received that bill or not. Some aspects of that discussion has been raised by Honorable, and that's why I'm in there. Now, per the letter that was written by the then Secretary to the President on the 18th day of March 2024, if you read the first paragraph, you will understand what happened. And with your permission, if I may read the first paragraph, the letter that was addressed to the clerk of Parliament, by the President. It has come to the attention of this office that while the President and other senior officials of the presidency were at Peduase for a cabinet retreat on Thursday, 14th March 2024, you, that's the clerk, attempted to submit the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill 2024 to Jubilee House for the President to signify his assent or otherwise to the bill. So
that's Bedier Tu's letter.
Bedier Tu's letter to the clerk. So by this letter, we've come to understand that the bill was sent to the Jubilee House. There's no doubt about it.
No, it is a.
No, he said you attempted. You went to the Jubilee House, okay. And he was not. That thing was not received.
Okay.
That's the only difference. By this, or you want me to read again?
No,
you heard it.
It's fine.
So he took it there. The clerk actually did his work by taking it to the Jubilee House. It's been, it's been authenticated.
He attempted.
He attempted. He said you were in the Jubilee House to submit it. So he got there. Of course, if I bring something to you and you choose not to receive it, what can I do? So he had to take it back.
I'll say that there are reasons for not receiving.
No problem. We'll come to those reasons. So the fact of the matter is that it was taken to the Jubilee House. And the Jubilee House refused it. That is the biggest unconstitutionality we've ever experienced in this country. They had no business refusing what Parliament sent to them.
Even if they are restrained.
Because how were they restrained? Which court said they were restrained at the time?
There was a matter before the court. So it's a pending matter.
It's a pending matter, but the court had not.
It's seen as an injunction.
No, it's not. The e-levy. Hold it. The e-levy was the e-levy was also in court. In fact, they had filed an injunction just like, but the e-levy was assented to. The bill was assented to by the same president. Let's stop this. The e-levy was in court. You know what the issues were. But the then president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, His Excellency, assented to it regardless. So that, you see, you can't pick and choose. At the end of the day, what we know is that the bill was sent to him, the Jubilee House refused it, and that was unconstitutional. Because the Constitution spells out what you can do. It is not, compulsory that you assent it. But after you've received it, you can write back to the Speaker or the clerk, detailing why, and that is what Article 106, postulates. So it was unconstitutional, and we've all come to understand that it was deliberate.
Okay.
Look.
So that's history. You try to
correct
it.
No, please. It's important. Okay. We will correct it. I beg you. You gave him up to about more than 30 minutes. Allow me. I beg you.
Very well.
Umaru, you see, who doesn't know? What was the issue? For me, and the court eventually dealt with it, so I can speak to it. It was a very unnecessary. It's a colleague of yours, and I would say a colleague at the bar, and then others. It was very unnecessary. And the Supreme Court were trying to help Honorable here.
Justice Abdullahi.
No.
Is it the case of Justice
Abdullahi? No, it wasn't. It was Richard Sky.
It's went to Richard Sky.
Richard Sky's suit. It was very unnecessary. The Supreme Court had not, and let me just also say that the Supreme Court did not
give judicial blessing.
No, the Supreme Court didn't really give judicial blessing to the bill. What the Supreme Court did eventually, by striking out the suit, was that
Who did strike it out?
It did. It said it was premature. If you read the Supreme Court decision,
the ripeness.
That's what the Supreme Court said.
There was a subsequent determination.
So there were two issues: Amanda Odoi and then the Richard Sky case. So you proceed.
So
when I said, he said that when I said the Supreme Court gave judicial blessings, I was wrong, and I'm reminding him.
You see, there was an earlier case, the Abdullahi one. No, even that, the Supreme Court struck out both. And the reason you can have the decision, the Supreme Court said in both cases that it was premature. That's what the Supreme Court said. I've read the decision. Senior, please allow me. If you have a contrary decision, you can bring it. I've read the decision. What the Supreme Court said was that both suits were premature. And of course, we knew this from day one. The Supreme Court interprets laws. And so until it is made law by the assent of the president, the Supreme Court had no mandate. And this had been an argument. Eventually, after the 2024 elections, the Supreme Court ruled. And it's important that I stress on the date it was ruled. The decision came. That was after the 2024 elections. The Supreme Court ruled that the cases, those 2 cases, were premature.
Okay. So
now,
I just want to help. So I'm reading from the BBC, which published this on 18th December 2024. Ghana's Supreme Court dismisses challenges to anti-LGBTQ bill. The story says Ghana's Supreme Court has unanimously decided to dismiss 2 legal challenges to new anti-LGBT legislation that has been criticized by rights groups. Earlier this year, lawmakers passed a bill imposing 3 years in prison for people identifying as LGBT and 5 years for forming or funding LGBT groups. Fear and uncertainty has gripped Ghana's blah, blah. The part that is important to us says Amanda Odoi and Richard Delaskai filed separate challenges to the bill to declare it illegal and prevent President Akufo-Addo from signing it into law. President Akufo-Addo delayed signing it following the challenges to the bill. He said he would await the Supreme Court's decision, but after several months of consideration, the judges said the case couldn't be reviewed until the president had signed it into law. So the issue of ripeness came up. There was no law for you to even, there was nothing, there was no law.
I've read it.
We strike out the law under Article 2.
Can I proceed?
And 130. So
no,
I think so. It's been cleared that it's been struck out.
That is why.
Okay. No. You see, it couldn't have been struck out because once we say it was dismissed,
yes,
it wasn't struck out.
Oh, senior, there's
please.
No, you see, allow me
to.
I'll give you a point.
When we say a case is struck out, it's different from the case being dismissed.
He said it was struck out, which
but
is what I've
what
just read.
you read said it's been dismissed.
No. BBC said struck out. The headline I just read said strike out. I just read it. Okay. Honorable, I mean, it's I just finished reading it. I can just, the headline says Ghana Supreme Court.
You let me finish.
Okay, so it's a Ghana Supreme Court dismisses, BBC uses the line dismiss, but you see, dismiss and strike out because
let me
it's not a law before them.
It is not
out.
Okay,
that's there are 2 different things.
Okay, but the effect is that it has been thrown out of the court.
See, when it is dismissed, you can't bring it back. It means it's been determined on its merits.
Okay.
When it is struck out, it means that it's been
technical.
thrown out on technical grounds.
Very well.
There are 2 different things.
Let me hear him.
We are both practitioners. They are not different.
Okay.
They are not different.
Please allow me.
Allow him, please.
When you
for
go
the next
to
10
court,
minutes, no interruption.
People are listening. In the next what?
In the next 10 minutes, no interruption.
Umaru,
no, I'm saying in the next 10 minutes, no interruption.
No.
Okay.
You see, when you go to court and you even decide to withdraw an application you filed, the court treats it. This is what the court says. It is struck out as dismissed.
Yes.
I mean, we go to court all the time. So there is a relationship. It is not entirely the case that, well, it is so different that when you say this is like this, please allow me. Now, you see, let me proceed. So it's been, but the substance of it is that the court did not give a judicial blessing to this. This is a fact. The court only had this case, whether you say dismissed or struck out, because it was premature. And this was the argument. That Richard Sky didn't have to even go to court because there was no law. So we knew it was deliberate because you remember that the president, even on a day, because Richard Sky, Amanda Odoi had filed before, and Richard Sky was on the way to file a day before. That day, that writ had not been filed. The president stated at a public function that Richard Sky had filed a writ. How he got to know that Richard Sky was going to file, only God knows. So we knew that it was deliberate, just for the president not to, assent his signature. Look, they are saying that the president only then, President Akufo-Addo, lost a golden opportunity to be a hero of our values. This is what I would say. He lost a golden opportunity to be a hero of our values. It is out of, sorry, senior, I think you won't take it personal, but it's out of shame that they are doing what they are doing. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Let me tell you. See, I have...
They say it took off 30-something amendments.
It took off what? The main issue I will deal with, the main thing they claim, they said an amendment of, we inserted clause 9. And that is the main issue. In fact, when you listen to their press conference and the minority leader, all he said really was that we were seeking to, and senior sought to also bring in certain, that we sought to, I don't know what he meant by that it was watertight at the time, and that the people who were promoters. I don't know whether he's actually read the current bill. Look, when you look, the clause 9, which seeks to amend the old bill. Have you read it yourself? Let me just read it to your hearing.
You can read. It has up to six subclauses.
So let me read it to your hearing and see whether, and I'll tell you, before I even do that, read the 11, prohibition, which has not been touched. It's in there. Prohibition of funding, sponsorship, or promotion of prohibited acts. This has not been touched. It's in there. 11.1. A person shall not fund, sponsor, or promote or act an act prohibited under this act. 2. A person who contravenes subsection 1 commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a term of imprisonment of not less than 3 years and not more than 5 years. When you come down, so promotion of it is criminalized. There's no doubt about it. It's not been touched. So please, this issue of we've voted, no, it's not true. Now,
but Section 9 then undoes what you did.
So read Section 9. Before, don't run ahead of yourself. Read what it is, then you understand. What does Section 9 say?
Before you read.
Thank you. Amendment proposed. Add the following subclause. Section 2 does not apply to. So the Section 2 does not apply to the provision of legal advice or legal representation. How is this a problem? How is this a problem? That whatever, look, what is the foundation of our law? Even if somebody is caught red-handed doing anything, in fact, even with murder, as practitioners we know, that our practice now is that unless the person has legal representation, they will not even proceed with the trial. So what's the problem if, assuming somebody is arrested or somebody has an issue, or infringes any part of this and he gets legal, but the old law, they did not factor this. Because it was as though, so even if a lawyer decides to even get into any of these matters, the lawyer may even have issues. But we are saying that now the provision of legal services is exempted. How is this an issue? Now, what else are we saying? B, submissions or representations made to the court, tribunal, parliament, commission of inquiry, body existing, or the body existing, body exercising judicial or quasi-judicial functions. How is this an issue? How is this an issue? Of course, even the Constitution allows that whatever you say in Parliament can never be used against you. Even in court, you are privileged. These are privileged, and so there is no issue here. What else? C, the publication of an academic, scientific, or medical opinion. How is this an issue?
We got to the media part.
The dissemination of information by a governmental body, non-governmental organization, development partner, or other body engaged in the delivery of health services. The provision of medical, surgical, psychological, or counseling services in accordance with accepted professional practice. The reporting of news or current affairs by a media house or journalist in the ordinary course of his journalism. Is that the problem?
So that's seen as promote. So you can do a media program reporting.
What does the law do to you in terms of what do you call it? We are talking about crime. What does the law? Does our law incriminate you for anything you say on radio?
Well, there's no criminal libel.
Thank you. There's no criminal libel. That is not to say that nobody can take you on in a civil matter.
Yes.
But we are talking about a criminal statute.
But there's some speech that can be criminal.
Of course. And if it does, especially in the section 207, 208 of the Act 29, you could be taken on. That's a different matter. But we are saying that for you to sit here as Umaru Sanda, and you profess any opinion on any issue regarding this, should not be seen as a crime. Should not. But if you, because we are talking about crime, where you will be held before the courts and perhaps convicted. And we are saying that because, of course, and this one for me is no issue. It doesn't mean that you can promote it. Because the promotion here is captured in Section 11. of the act, that you cannot promote it. But as a journalist, when you come to set and you proffer any opinion on this, it should not be used against you as a crime. Okay. It should not.
Okay.
Now,
I need you to wrap up for me.
Oh, Umaru, I have a few things to say. You see...
So why don't you give me permission to go around and come back to you?
Oh, no, then you let me do just 3 minutes, and then I'll come to you. Now, I also agree with you when you asked the senior. So for me, there is no issue. Except you want to just throw out there as if that's the only difference. That's the only difference. But the difference I've stated to you does not in any way affect the core of the bill. Okay. But you see...
He said the substance is remarkably different.
But no, I have read to you. This is what they said. You heard them. That we have inserted a certain clause which sought to water down the potency of the bill. It's not true. Okay. You asked him whether there is even any evidence of disagreement at the committee level. And even
also at plenary.
At the plenary, both.
In terms of votes.
In terms of votes, because you see, I've not been there, but I've followed parliamentary this thing for quite some time. Look, even where a report is brought and senior knows it, and it is not unanimous, they state it. That is by a majority decision from the committee. They stated there. This never happened. Do we have any evidence that the minority stated their opinion that is not a majority decision? No. So please, then senior, you need to ask your members there why they didn't oppose it, because there is no record in parliament that shows that they disagreed at the committee level. If you disagree, it will come. And you will tell the House that this is a majority thing. We were not part of it. You have to state it.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
That happens all the time, but here it didn't. So it is not the case. Now again, you see, with respect to what is happening, and he said that we didn't tell the people, or we didn't state that we were going to pass the bill yesterday and all that. Well, it is, I don't know why. I don't know whether he was in the chamber yesterday. I was there for the large part of it, so I would not want to do it, but it's been passed. It appeared, and what I...
So you passed it hurriedly, because
there were no objections to anything. What were we waiting for? I thought that they were the people saying that do it. What have we done wrong? I thought that we...
You say it's half cooked.
No. You see, Umaru, a few weeks ago, you heard them. Press conferences
challenging
that
you.
We were not doing anything. They even said that we were not doing it. We were virtual. We had thrown the thing away. We were not interested.
So you're hiding it.
So what have we seen now? We did it, and then there's another problem. We shouldn't have done it. For me, we've come far. Now it's a test case for President Mahama. What President Akufo-Addo could not do, it is expected that President Mahama will do. He has assured us. And the amendments, the copies I have, so you see, this is now going to, let me put on record that it is now going to be fine-tuned. That is what happens. Okay. I mean, do the proper drafting before it's presented to the president. I know that the very day President Mahama receives this, he was sent to this. He will not play games with the people of Ghana. He will not, even if senior decides to go to court.
He hasn't said
even if I know he will not. He's a very fine gentleman. He will not.
No, but he said it's a constitutional matter, and you know, Article 2 enjoins all of us to defend. So if someone is acting or has
like that, so you see what will happen eventually.
When he's done, let me.
I'll come back to you. I'll give you.
So what actually happened was that we passed the bill. It is going to be fine-tuned and sent to the Jubilee House. This time, the president will graciously receive it and ascend his signature.
Very well.
And President Mahama, will become the hero of our values in this country.
Thank you so much, Akwetia Member of Parliament. Let me speak to Michael Akagbo, doctor. He is senior programs, or is programs manager at the CDD in charge of human rights and social inclusion. Doc, you're welcome to The Big Issue.
Thank you, Umaru, and I want to say good morning to everybody, the honorables in the studio, and also to your listening public.
Appreciate it. The bill, as has been passed, would you say that it captures properly the people who need to be included, and who really needs to be included in this matter, as you have been following?
Umaru, thank you so much for the question, and I probably want to start by saying that. As I listen to the two gentlemen in the studio, I'm here just laughing, and it tells me one thing, that the bill, for a starter, is unnecessary. This whole jumping through hoops, try to exempt, not to exempt, and all of this, I find it very, very unnecessary. And we've had this position from the very beginning, since 2021, that there was not a necessity for a bill that seeks to criminalize identities, people just because they say this is who they are. I think it's a rule against natural justice to criminalize anybody for just saying that I am this. And we've made that position.
Even if it frowns against our culture, our proper human...
Well, you have to understand, culture is not always a good thing. You know, culture can itself be a totalitarian, a totalizing system. So we need to decide, what do we mean by culture? We are running a democratic society. And in a democratic society, your values are determined by the democratic culture. It is what drives your culture, and that culture is from the Constitution. That Constitution is what drives the democratic culture. So when we talk about Ghanaian culture right now, we are talking about the cultures that is coming out from the Constitution. Not a Ghana culture, not an Akan culture, not an Ewe culture, but a constitutional culture. And that is what we mean by we should be looking at the broad picture. We cannot divorce the conversation from the whole broad agenda of the democratic enterprise we currently have. So, it's a bit surprising because I'm sitting here and I'm listening and I'm just thinking that in the face of all the imminent problems we have, Accra is basically under flood right now. And I would have thought that this energy that we put into passing this bill or this into law could have been channeled to solving some of these problems that we are having in the society, in the state right now. But, we find it prudent at this time, in the face of everything going on, that this is what we want to pursue. Well, that's fine. Parliament decides to do what it wants to do. But at the same time, the question is this bill relevant? What does it seek to cure? What problem is it actually seeking to cure? That is already not prescribed in existing law. I mean, if you take the criminal code, the Act 29-104, most of what is being held today in this new bill is already in there. So what is it seeking to cure? That is not already prescribed. So I find it, that's what I'm saying, that I don't think this bill in itself is very necessary, because all these issues, and I'm really surprised at the position of the MPP, to be honest with you, because if the original principal position they have held was that these are the very things they had issues with, then I wonder why they are having a problem with that right now. Because if this is what they were actually pushing for in the last, as opposing the bill in the last parliament, why is it a problem today? Why not stick to that same principle and say that, well, we agreed in principle the last time that this bill violates the rights of people to do X, Y, Z. So today, we are in, since this bill is going to exempt people from these criminalization, then we support it in principle.
But they say that the piece of legislation that they supported in the last parliament, which was arrested or prevented from signing by the court, is not the same as the one that they have now. So they want to call out the NDC for being unprincipled, and two, to say that what has been packaged is different from what was presented. That's their position.
Well, they can go ahead and call the NDC as being hypocritical or unprincipled, but they could still stand on their principle and say, but these are also the things that we wanted to have taken care of in the last bill. I mean, do you get my point, Osman? They could have made that argument, okay? So I find it really strange that...
So for you, the law itself is unnecessary. We don't even need to bring any law in there to deal with this matter.
It's very unnecessary. What we could have done if we wanted to, some of the things that I haven't seen the full document actually coming from Parliament yet. I'm yet to see them, and I'm yet to read what is fully captured, the final version. But going off on what I have read so far, what I've heard the majority leader, the minority leader, what they have spoken in the public spaces on, and based on those decisions, I can tell you for a fact that this bill, as we have always said from the positions of our coalition of human rights, that this bill is unnecessary. This bill doesn't solve any of the impending socioeconomic problems that we are having in the country today. It doesn't make anybody's life better. It doesn't put food on anybody's table. It doesn't fix our bad road networks. It doesn't cure the flooding problem we have in Accra. So I don't see what the bill what it attempts to cure. That has been the problem I've had with the bill from the very beginning.
So it's a much ado. It's a much ado about nothing.
Exactly. It is a much ado about nothing, because at the end of the day, why do we think that government has a right to regulate the actions of people in their private space?
Okay.
There's a difference between private and public. Okay?
Okay.
That clear distinction, unfortunately, in our republic, that seems to have been blurred, because we are a people who have carried the private into the public space.
Very well.
So even in our workplaces, you have people referring to people as uncles, as brothers, as mothers, when they are performing instrumental, rational functions in bureaucratic structures. So we need to look at it bigly. Look, Ghana is a bureaucratic state, and the principles of bureaucracy requires that when we are making decisions in the courts or we are making decisions in parliament, decisions should not be based on personal proclivities or biases or whatever. It should be based on sound, instrumental, rational logic. That should be what should be driving. That is how laws are made. But we are having these law coming up, and to be very honest with you, there is so much subjectivity in this law that has been passed. Take the point of the one about cross-dressing. Intentional cross-dressing. Who makes that decision?
I interviewed a majority leader yesterday on radio, and I asked him, someone has sent a message, so if I'm a girl and I like to dress like a boy, what happens? And he said they should stop it.
Exactly. That is the ambiguity of the law.
So who
makes that decision? You leave it to the public to make a distinction what intentional cross-dressing is. Are you going to say that if I'm walking in Nima and somehow I decide to dress in a Scottish outfit and I'm wearing a skirt with a shirt, somebody should be able to attack me because they perceive my wearing of skirt as an LGBT display? That is very dangerous. So, like I said, the law, even as it had passed itself, with all the exemptions that has been made, is still a very dangerous law.
Okay.
Because don't forget, we are a people who don't read. And people are only going to run around with the subjective understanding that a law has passed. As to what is the content of the law, they will not know.
Very well.
They will not be bothered about it. And the actions they will take will be premised on a constructed understanding that a law has passed. This law is still very dangerous.
Thank you.
We need to really take a good look at it.
Thank you. That's Dr. Michael Akagbo. He's with the CDD. Dr. Nana Yaomereku has joined us as a relations expert. How are we looking in the face of the international community having passed this, even though it's yet to be signed? Is it a big deal internationally? Well, are we going to have aid cuts to us?
Well, good morning to you, the panel members, and the other panel member online. I think that I've enjoyed the conversation so far, but I want to put it in context. There is something that we call the liberal international order, or the rule-based order, that has really defined the way international politics has been run over the past 80 years or so. And we've seen that in the last 2 decades, or the last 3 decades, there seems to be a recession, a reversal in this so-called liberal international order. And one of the fulcrum or the facets of liberal international order is human rights, self-determination, and stuff like that. Now we see, what you call populism or illiberal nationalism defining global politics. And it's even shaping the way politics is done domestically. So there's the upsurge of far right, politics, and there's a global pushback against some of these rights, including queer rights, LGBT, and stuff like that. So I think that globally, if you look at across the continent, I hear almost 30 African countries out of the 54 are gravitating towards signing some of these bills that are criminalizing, LGBT activities, and some even have capital.
Signing in support or against?
Against.
Okay.
Some even have, death penalties. So I mean, look at the United States. Look at President Trump. I mean, if there is any particular entity that serves as a pushback against these kind of things, he is the person you should be looking up to. He comes to power and he says that in the term of his presidency, there shall be only 2 gender binaries in the U.S. You are either a man or you are either a woman, and nothing falls outside that. He's put in place a number of measures that seem to be pushing against this kind of queer rights. What I also want to put across is that every country pursues its foreign policy or domestic policies against one particular thing, national interest. So generally, there seems to be a pushback, against these fundamental rights of LGBTQ because of what I call illiberal nationalism or populist politics. It doesn't put Ghana, in my opinion, there is this narrative or analogy that you are going to suffer from some international community pushback because of funding, because of some conditional aid that we might be losing. But I also believe that every country worth its salt has domestic values to project. And so we can't always tie our sovereignty to conditional aid. Otherwise, your sovereignty is basically irrelevant. And so the question is not how Ghana is looking in the eyes of the international community, but the question is whether, this really is right for us as a country, not to fall in the trap of global politics. Like I said, if there is any country to look up to in terms of human rights, in terms of, the liberal international order, it's the United States. And right now, look, there is what you call usually US presidents have what you call presidential initiative development, that every president who comes tries to push forward this agenda. During President Clinton's time, it was AGOA. He introduced AGOA, right? I think so. And then Bush introduced...
Bush did AGOA, I think.
And then Clinton... Are you sure? And then Clinton did what? Bush did AGOA, but Clinton did one of those. I think MCC, the Millennium Challenge.
Millennium Challenge was also Bush.
Oh, okay.
Because he even gave us a N1 road.
Right. And then Biden comes, and then he has what... Biden didn't have so much of a global policy. Obama. Not so much of a global African policy. And then Biden comes and he pushes ahead what's called the Libido Corridor. The Libido Corridor was a way just to transfer Africa's resources across the Atlantic into US. What has Trump done? Trump is cutting back every aid that US provides to the global economy that he calls US aid. And I'm drawing your attention to something. There is something within US aid called PEPFAR. PEPFAR is President's Emergency Relief Plan for AIDS. And within that, he specifically targeted the transgender community and abortion. Within that, there is what we call the Mexico Policy Act. That says that all resources from US that is helping to fund abortion and the transgender community should be immediately stopped. So this is the citadel. This is the country that everybody wants to compare themselves when it comes to human rights issues, when it comes to liberal democracy.
But you do agree that their president now does not necessarily toe the line.
Of course. I mean,
so
I understand
maybe would that not be an outlier, an exception?
But even in Europe, look at the rise of populist politics that seems to be shaping the way global politics is being done, right? Trump has overturned what you call the Roe v. Wade. The Roe v. Wade was a seminal, human right.
On abortion.
Exactly. So what the point I'm saying is that it is not so much how Ghana looks in the face of the international community, but how Ghana seeks to protect its political sovereignty. And I think every country worth its salt, in my opinion. Global politics is by and large moving away from political correctness.
Globalization is falling.
So I think that an assertive sovereignty...
So it means that we have joined a committee of nations that is on a certain path, so we shouldn't fear any repercussions based on the bill we passed yesterday.
Look, let me tell you something, and I'll give you another example. US truncates its membership with WHO, World Health Organization.
Yes.
The Trump administration knows there are certain benefits to be gotten from being WHO. Do you know what that benefit is? Sharing data on public health crisis, Ebola, COVID-19. And then, unfortunately, when the Trump administration got itself out of WHO, but it realized it still needs this data to be able to upgrade its vaccine policies. But it hasn't got that data. It is now coming back to renegotiate with specific African countries for them to give them their public health data in return for what? Money. If you were a sovereignty worth its salt, would you like to put your citizens' health data out there just so you make money from other countries? You wouldn't.
Depends on how broke you are.
And Ghana rightly so. Whether you are broke or not, Ghana rightly so, like other countries like Zimbabwe, like other countries, rejected that. Would you say that is a bad policy because we needed the money, or it was a right policy? So the point I'm making is that every country worth its salt has its values to protect, and it's being defined by its foreign policies as well as its domestic policies.
Okay.
So it's not so much of how the international community sees us, but how we seek to project.
We are a proud nation.
Very, very much so.
Thank you. I'll come to you. Let me just read messages from my viewers and listeners. Good morning, Umaru. This demonstrates the government's commitment to bringing the LGBT thing to a close. The minority should give us a break. They had all the time in the world to effect all the amendments they wish for. What became of it? Now that the NDC government is on course to bring this to a closure, they have the testicular fortitude to making an empty noise. Wow. Umaru, please, I'm waiting for my share of the meat. I said the Eid was on Wednesday. We moved on. We moved past the meat. The Salah meat is finished. If the NPP truly had issues with these points taken out of the bill, didn't the NPP have majority in Parliament? Why couldn't they vote to take them out just like the NDC has done and pass and sign it? This one says, the NPP man answering your questions should accept that the anti is passed. They failed to pass it when they were in government. They did not oppose it when the dress is not fitting. It's not due to the color of the material, but the size. Justice in Community 1 in Tema sent that particular message through. This one says, okay, it says, good morning to you, Umaru Sanda, and my boss, Honorable Nana J. Bafwewa. This is Abdul Ganiu in Makarigu from Savannah region. The newly passed LGBT bill reportedly contains 31 amendments, which suggests it is significantly different from the original bill that many expected former President Akufo-Addo to assent to. This is an observation worth noting, as highlighted by Nana Asafo-Adjei. This one says, critics argue that the NDC has effectively altered the bill to the extent that it may no longer achieve the objectives many Ghanaians were hoping for. According to this view, the numerous amendments have weakened the provisions in the law. This is a very longish message. I cannot continue to read. This one says, good morning to your panelists and your cherished viewers. Ghanaians should wholeheartedly support the recent passing of the LGBT law by Parliament. The significant step forward for equality and human rights reflects on our collective commitment to inclusivity. That's Wills Yoga in Abutia 30. I have a long one from William Nyako, who is an investigative journalist. And he says that while Article 102 of the Constitution requires the presence of at least 1/3 of all members of Parliament for the conduct of parliamentary business, Article 104(1) imposes a higher threshold for the determination of any matter, including the passage of a bill requiring that at least half of all members of Parliament be present and that the matter be decided by a majority of the people present and voting. Should the court find that the Article 104 quorum requirement was not satisfied at the time of passage, the resulting law could be declared unconstitutional and void, notwithstanding its substantive provisions. Before we move, let me just speak to Samonate George. He is MP for Ningo Prampram, one of the proponents of the first bill and the second bill. Honorable, you're welcome to Eyewitness News. I just have 3 minutes with you. We are grateful that you've joined us.
Eyewitness News.
Did I say Eyewitness News? Forgive me. The big issue.
Yeah.
I've just been thrown off balance. You caused it. You see your life. You're always causing me problems. Honorable, if the bill that you sent to Akufo-Addo was fit and proper, and you just wanted him to pick a pen from his pocket and sign, but that did not happen, why didn't you send the same thing to President Mahama to sign? Why did you have to make the alterations and amendments that were made by the House of Parliament before the passage yesterday?
Thank you, Umaru. And the point must be made clear that I had always maintained that I thought that the bill could have just been transmitted straight to President Mahama as soon as this 9th Parliament came in, because I believe that once the 8th Parliament had passed the bill and done the 3rd reading, Parliament was functus officio. However, my reading of the law appeared not to be the popular sentiment, and the popular sentiment was that we needed to relay it again and go through the processes, which is what we did. Now, do not forget that one of the key things that the then majority leader, now minority leader, Fenyo Markin, had raised in opposition to the passage of the bill was the suggestion that the bill criminalized certain professionals in the exercise of their professional capabilities. And I said, look, that is neither here nor there. In fact, that formed the basis of the suits by Richard Sky and Amanda Odoy to the Supreme Court. The issue of who exactly does the bill reflect on and what are the exemptions in there. And so what we did within Team Fojo when we decided to relay this bill was to make that clarification that said subject to the Constitution. So if you look at what we submitted as sponsors in March, April, thereabout, and was subsequently sent to the committee in September of last year, we introduced a phrase in clause 9 and clause 10. We said subject to the Constitution to ensure that everybody is clear in their mind that whatever this law is seeking to criminalize is subject to constitutional privileges that exist. Now, when we went to the committee, the chairman of the committee then said, look, to avoid the confusion, because today we are having this back and forth, and because it's in Parliament, we can call on Sam George. Sam George, what is exactly is the intent of this bill? And then we come and explain. But after the bill is passed and assented to by the president, interpretation no longer rests with the lawmaker. It rests with the judge. And so if you do not clarify and codify what the boundaries you are setting are clearly, and even someone as experienced as Afenyo Makin could have confusion in his mind, you may then begin to have interpretative issues that will arise. So then we said, okay, let us be clear what 8 exemptions we are creating. 1, and I'll run through them quickly, and all of this, as you then see why it was originally covered by the omnibus phrase subject to the Constitution. A, the provision of legal advice or legal representation. Umaru, the highest offense in Ghana today is maybe high treason, an offense against the Constitution and the state. But every person accused of high treason or murder is entitled to a lawyer and legal representation, to get legal advice and get legal representation. We had memos coming from lawyers saying that, so if someone was charged with an act prohibited by this law, and I offer my advice or offer legal representation to that person, will I be liable under the dictates of the law for advocacy and promotion of? And we said, no. Everybody who is accused of an offense in Ghana is entitled to legal representation. So put it there, that the clause on advocacy and promotion does not relate to people who are offering legal advice or legal representation. Then B, submissions or representations made to a court, tribunal, parliament, commission of inquiry, or a body exercising judicial or quasi-judicial functions. Umaru, when you appear before Parliament and you testify before Parliament, we can't then take you and prosecute you on the basis of your testimony. It's like when we held the first sitting of, and in 2022, 2023, we had the public hearings. There were pro-LGBTQ groups who came to make an argument. Would you then say that because they've appeared before Parliament or a body like Shraj or a court to give testimony during a trial or a judicial matter involving someone who is under prosecution on the basis of this legislation, that person is then now arrested and held on the basis of their testimony? That's where the question came. And we said, no. So long as it is in one of these scenarios, Parliament, a constitutional body, the court, a tribunal, your testimony there cannot be used against you.
Okay.
C, the publication of an academic, scientific, or medical opinion. Umaru, academic opinions are different. When you say something is an academic piece, it is different from a lecturer standing in class and and giving an opinion, a verbal opinion, or advocating something. A lecturer who does that is going to be held guilty of advocacy under this law, because an academic piece is published in a journal. There are standards by which you determine what is an academic piece or a scientific piece or a medical piece. D, dissemination of information by a governmental body, non-governmental organization, or developmental partners in the delivery of health services or health-related programs. So, Umaru, if someone is doing something, if UNICEF, UNESCO, they are doing work related to early childhood diseases or any of those health-related problems, then they are not falling foul of this law. But if they go into the field to then begin advocacy for LGBTQ, this provision, it does not cover them because it says subject to the Constitution. The Constitution does not allow you to do something which is illegal.
Okay.
But we're simply reinforcing the protections. Then the provision, and Tim Forger, when I spoke with him yesterday, seemed to have his biggest quip with this particular provision. The provision of medical, surgical, psychological, or counseling services in accordance with accepted professional practice. And he says that this allows for people to then carry out all kinds of surgeries. And please, accepted professional practice is the phrase in there. There is a qualifying phrase for the enjoyment of those provisions. It says it must be in accordance with accepted professional practice. Who sets professional practice for medical, surgical, and psychological services in Ghana? Is it not the Ghana Health Service?
Does the Medical and Dental Council.
Yes, and then the Medical and Dental Council. So does the Ghana Medical Association or the Ghana Medical and Dental Council allow for gender conversion surgeries in Ghana? No. So if a doctor goes to do that today, that practice, that surgery is not in accordance with accepted professional practice. So that person has fallen foul. So it is not a blanket exemption. It is qualified in law by saying in accordance with accepted professional practice. Then, Umaru, reporting of news or current affairs by a media house. So your reportage of this, and you remember you interviewed me, Umaru, that time, this time not on Big Issue, but on Eyewitness News.
On face-to-face, rather.
Sorry, face-to-face as well.
No,
but even on Eyewitness News, you asked me and said, so if you report about LGBTQ, are you guilty? And so if we say that a journalist who is reporting the news or current affairs in the ordinary course of journalism, how does that now say that we've made it a blanket for you to come and sit there and advocate for LGBTQ? Absolutely not. And then the one that says a communication privilege under the Evidence Act. Umaru, the Evidence Act is clear that patient-doctor conversations are privileged communication. Yeah. Pastor-congregant or priest-congregant. So whether it's your imam and a member of the masjid, or a member of a shrine and his fetish priest, or a pastor and his church member.
You can't divulge that.
You can't divulge that. Or lawyer-client. And you know why this became necessary? Because in the law, we have a duty to report provision. And so the question was being asked that if someone goes to meet his doctor and says to his doctor that, look, I need you to treat me for an anal tear because I got an anal tear out of having homosexual sex, gay sex, is that doctor going to be falling foul of the duty to report provision? That when his patient leaves, he must immediately within 7 days report to lawful authority. And we said no.
Okay.
The Evidence Act of Ghana sees that as privileged communication. So
that it means then that you decided to expand and explain the law. You did not take away
simplicity.
Very well. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much. Samuel Ati George is Minister for Communication, but for this purpose, we're having a conversation with him on the LGBTQ thing.
It looks like Michael wanted to say something.
Okay, Michael said that the law is unnecessary.
I think Honorable Sam George actually saw me raise my hand.
Okay.
You know, me and Honorable, we've been having conversations on this for quite some time.
4 or 5 years, yeah.
And he knows my position on the issues. I know his position, and I'm happy with his articulation of the separations and all the exemptions that have been, and he kind of explained. But I still have some reservations regarding even the duty to report, and with the populations you talked about the pastors, So what about teachers? What about parents? Are parents to report to their children? Are teachers to report their students? I didn't hear you talk about
those are not privileged communication under the Evidence Act, and so yes, they have a duty to report.
If I'm a student,
yes,
and I'm supposedly I'm a student, and I'm battling with such a problem, and I go to my teacher in trust to have a conversation. By your law, he's supposed to report me.
Teacher-student communication is not a privileged communication.
Why is it not a privileged conversation?
I'm not the one defining it.
I get what you're saying.
I get what you're saying. We reference the Evidence Act.
Dr. Akawu, the Evidence Act was passed before Sam George was born, so he cannot respond to that one. It was a decree. It was a decree.
That is some of the problems I'm kind of talking about that we have inherent in the bill or the law right now. That how do we are not making these expansive spaces to allow for some of these exemptions that Sam George has just talked about.
Okay. No, but you see, Umaru, what this does is it shows you that the argument by Ntim Forjo and some members of the NPP that we've watered down the act or the law is not factual. Because you see that my brother Michael still has his issues that he had with me 4 years ago, still with the law. Because we've still kept all of those provisions. Look, in Team Fojo and my brothers in the MPP, all their problem is this. NDC has come. They thought we were not going to pass this law. They thought we were going to use it to play politics. And now we've shown that our commitment goes beyond politics. It goes to the protection of the innocence of our children. Okay. And that we will not compromise, even though it doesn't please Michael and some other people, we will not compromise on what our stance are. Well. And our stance remains the same.
Thank you.
LGBTQ rights are illegal. And like Mahama Yariga said when you interviewed him yesterday, you asked him, for persons in that category, what should they do? Change. If you don't change, the law will deal with you.
But thank you so much. Do you know what someone said, George? Minister for Communication. Dr. Akagbo, thank you. Dr. Michael Akagbo of CDD, thank you so much. I'm going to give you gentlemen 1 minute each, so please restrict yourself to that 1 minute.
So let me trash out some few issues.
Just a minute. I'm giving you a minute.
On the issue of quorum, I want to read it from the case of Justice Abdullahi versus Attorney General to, dispel some of the, some, let me, for want of better word, confusion which resulted from my brother's position. The first issue presented for judicial determination concerns quorum. There are two separate quorum provisions that govern the business of the House. The general quorum provision is found in Article 102 of the Constitution. A quorum in Parliament, apart from the person presiding, shall be 1/3 of all the members of Parliament. In other words, for the House to commence and proceed with the ordinary business of the day, there must be in attendance at least 1/3 of all the members of Parliament, apart from the person presiding. There's a second quorum provision found in Article 1041. The provision applies specifically and exclusively to voting to determine a matter in Parliament. Article 1041 provides as follows: except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, matters in Parliament shall be determined by the votes of the majority of members present, and voting with at least half of all the members of Parliament present. Emphasis added. The rationale for having two separate quorum provisions is simple. The business of Parliament is diverse. Parliament is first and foremost a deliberative chamber, where members meet to debate and discuss various matters of public moment. For what deliberative function, when members are not yet called upon to vote to decide or determine a matter, example, approve a proposed contract or a bill, but merely to discuss or debate it, the Constitution per Article 102 sets a lower quorum threshold.
What's your point in relation to it? I think we read this already.
My point is that firstly, quorum is not presumed. Secondly, when it comes to voting, you need half of members present.
But currently, you don't have proof that you didn't have half of the members present and voting yesterday.
Wait. I don't need proof. You just even saw it on your cameras, on your TV.
That's not enough.
But I'm saying, no, come on.
Don't people have a clocking system?
We have a clocking system. Okay. But I am saying
you also do head count sometimes.
No, yes, but we sign in. But I'm saying that at the point when that decision was made, there was no quorum.
So that's your view, even though you don't have evidence to prove it.
By the evidence, you don't provide it here.
Okay.
But the second point is this. My brother said strikeout is the same as dismiss. Please wait, there's no relationship. There's no relationship.
No problem.
When the court strikes a matter out, it says strike out as withdrawn. It doesn't say strike out as dismissed.
Very well. Yes, when you withdraw
You said that strike out as dismissed. No, that is wrong.
Okay.
When a court dismisses a matter because it has heard it on merit and thrown it out,
okay.
There are two different things. Now, exception under Section 9. If you look at all the propagations that have been done with respect to LGBTQ, and my brother highlighted a bit of it, under the USAID PEP scheme, it always comes in the form of medical promotions, articles, and so on and so forth. The moment you allow that in, you have done a cost 90 work.
Very well. Thank you, Honorable. Doc, you have a minute to make any closing remark on this, then we can.
Right. So 60 seconds.
Yes,
start.
60 seconds start.
I think that Ghana's foreign policy now has always been what you call strategic balancing or positive neutrality. And I think that we've developed the acumen and the capacity to be able to weather the storm, as and when these things happen. So I'm sure that going forward, whatever happens because this bill has been passed, I'm sure that we have the capability to negotiate our way as to why we've adopted this bill, so we're able to maintain our sovereignty. So I think that this should be one of the ways by which Ghana is able to demonstrate the capabilities in terms of its ability to be out there in its foreign capacity. Yeah.
Oh, but we want to do re-examination, we can leave.
So I have no qualms with Senior and his position on this withdrawal, and then I don't have any questions. But the substance of what he claimed, which has been rendered false, is that the Supreme Court gave a judicial blessing. It's not true. We've stated that. The Supreme Court said, and I have read the decision over and over again, that it was premature. So there was no law to determine determine in terms of the Constitution. You see, Umaru, what have we been discussing? There was an earlier parliament. They dealt with the law. Which laws eventually, they dealt with a bill. Which bill never became law for reasons you know about. Eventually, a new parliament. Some of us are even new.
Both of you are new.
Well, so we are new. We come back. And we need to start the whole thing. If I had any issue with any provision, which I wasn't in the House previously, don't I have the right to raise it now?
You do.
Assuming that's even the case. It cannot be necessarily same as we had before.
It's not the same parliament.
It's not the same parliament. I mean, we don't need to belabor this.
Okay.
At the end of the day, the substance, what we seek to do, is captured. Honorable Sub-Judge nailed it. It is only that they made noise, that we were not going to deal with it, we had shelved it and all that. We have shown that we are interested and we have run ahead of ourselves. We've made it, even though they thought we would not. Look, Umaru.
I need you to end for me.
Oh yes, I'll end. At the end of the day, I have said that, see, you would ask us a very simple question. What was their stance yesterday? They couldn't vote no. They didn't work out. What was the fear?
And they didn't vote.
Because it should have been on record that they walked out or they voted no. The fear that Ghanaians would descend on them. So you only said, and it's also remarkable that we state here that at some point the Honorable Intim said he is no longer on record.
Pontius Pilate.
Yes, he is no longer interested. So he is no longer, I don't know whether that could translate into saying that he is no longer a member of part of the sponsors of the bill.
It's too late now. Parliament
so that's the point. So you've been part, and Honorable Samson said that you've been part of us all this while. Is it because you thought, because you've been all over, that the president or the government is not interested? Now we've seen that he's interested. You just wanted to show something to the optics. We've done it.
Okay.
And they should come with us.
Okay.
President Mahama is here to receive it. He will receive it, assent to it. As for the issues, don't worry. Now, if after, because I don't know, Richard is your colleague, the law and the Supreme Court said it's premature. Maybe after it's been assented, if he wants to go back, that's within his right. Senior, would you like to test the law on this?
Let's leave it here. Thank you so much. This is the big issue on 97.3 City FM and on Channel One Television. We return to talk about our perennial flooding issue and why we are not able to deal with it. Please stay with us. Yeah, welcome back. This is a big issue on Channel One Television and on 97.3 City FM. I'm Umaru Sanda Amadu. I've reconstituted my panel because of the discussion we are about to have, which is the flooding that we see every time in Accra. A few drops of rain and then there's flooding. Our drainage system and all of those matters have come up. Then the Wager Dam, which is, in Accra. If we don't spill it, the whole of Accra would go down. So let's spill it. We spill it and then people who have their beautiful houses in the waterway are affected. As soon as the water dries up, business continues as usual. How can we have an end to this particular matter? I've brought in, aside my two members of parliament who were with me since morning, Engineer Kosi Dede is an engineer and analyst. I used to know him as a CPP member, but now I know him as an engineer. Senior, you're welcome.
Thank you. I've always been an engineer before CPP.
Before CPP. Hope you are doing well.
I'm doing well.
It's good to see you. Good to see you. Engineer Abdullahi Mahama is a road and building consultant who didn't bring me salad meat. You're welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Beautiful, beautiful. Desmond Appiah used to work at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly as a Chief Resilience Officer. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
How is Accra? We are not resilient, and I want to start with you. Why is Accra not resilient? Small thing now, we are falling under.
I think Accra is resilient in so many ways. And our ability to kind of get out of the doldrums is a sign of resilience. Our ability for businesses to even thrive in the space is a sign of resilience. Our ability to even have this kind of conversations and face some of the issues is a sign of resilience. But it does not mean that we are doing well in terms of ensuring that our resilience leads to the kind of life that we are interested in.
Explain to me what resilience is. Is resilience not that when it rains, we should still be fine, we should move around because the water goes underground in underground drains and moves? Is that not what resilience is? That we shouldn't be worried about flooding. When people see the clouds are forming, they should not run away from school and go home. Is that not what resilience should be?
No, actually, resilience means our ability to recover, to bounce back. That is resilience. But you need
not prevention.
It's part of it. The prevention, I mean, like the example you gave, if when we see clouds, we run away or we all begin to panic, it means that we are not resilient.
Okay.
So, but in the true sense of the word, the resilience means that we are able to bounce back. And what we ought to be doing is to be ensuring that we put in the structures which do not make us panic. Because I'm panicking, and I remember back in 2017, it's one of the things that we're very concerned about. Panicking just because we've seen clouds. And right now, just coming from the house to this place, you can see the numbers just on the wayside because, of course, this past few days, people have not been able to accomplish what they have to be doing. So if that is how we respond, because we wait to get into the crisis, and then because we can bounce back, then it means we are not really working on being resilient. We are, because we're able to bounce back. But if we continue on that path, we stretch ourselves and we begin to break down, and our resilience will be undermined. So I brought a gift for you to add to your massive collection.
Repeta.
Yes.
What gift is that?
It's the Accra Resilience Strategy, which was launched in 2019. And there are a lot of things in here, 3 pillars, 27 actions, which if we pursue or we continue to work on, would make us more resilient. Because
tell me what the 3 pillars are, because I'm excited, but the only problem for me is that we have so many literature on our shelves. Like, for instance, I always talk about the AMA bylaw that prohibits hawking or buying from a hawker, or the AMA bylaw that says every trotro should have a bin, a litter bin in them. We don't have those things happening. So when you have a document published looking beautiful that says we are resilient, for me, it doesn't give me hope.
No, actually, this document doesn't say we are resilient. It says that there are shocks and stresses that we need to be working on.
Okay.
Otherwise, we undermine our ability to always recover. And there's a tree, like a tree of the history of issues in Accra, from way back 1930-something, when the floods, all the way to 1960s, 85, 2001. And if we just skipped a bit to even just recently, a couple of days ago. So these documents identify the shocks, the stresses, and the things that we need to be paying attention to so that we don't put ourselves in this situation. When I was invited to come, one of my concerns was that what is the new thing that we're going to talk about? Because most of this, I remember, 2 or 3 years ago, I was on this program and we had a conversation on these matters. But it shows that we are not tackling those basics that we need to be tackling, which are the stresses, the things which are making us to suffer. Because we shouldn't, in any modern city, be running away because we've seen clouds. We shouldn't. But we are not tackling those stresses. And that is why this document was important. And there are examples in there of some of the things that we were doing or we should be doing that we are not.
Okay.
And that takes us back to that same
Engineer Mahama, our roads and the culverts and the drains, there's a view that that's where all our problem really is. The drains are open, so people are able to dump refuse in there. The drains are narrow, they are shallow. That's why the water has to overflow on the roads. The way the roads are done, they break down or they develop potholes, so problems, chaka. So connect the engineering bit on the road for me in our city to how we are seeing the failure we are seeing.
Well, I'll say good morning to your cherished viewers. I would like to debunk one thing about the drainage. In fact, it's been a mantra that every time you hear Ghanaians saying that the drains are not designed to the sizes. I think I'm on one of the projects with my engineer, Dede, and you have to peruse the design of the drainage with the catchment area of the location where the road is being constructed, the topography. And in fact, let me say this. The books that we are using to do our design in terms of drainages, the catchment, the size of the is the same road books that are used outside the country, anywhere in the world. There's no particular design concept for Ghana. Once I get my catchment area, get the data from the Meteo Hydrological Service Department, all the data come together before you are even designing the drains from one location to the other, what we call the origin destination, and then the culvert sizes, even the catch pits are all designed. It is the indiscipline. And the fact that I've been saying this, that how come that you have a road 5 years after the road construction, there's no flood? Let's take the N1, for instance. Let's say from Dimples to Tetekwashi. About 7 years ago, it was not used to flooding. But suddenly it's flooding. There's a root cause behind why it is flooding. For information, maybe somebody has gone behind the reasonable discharge point to obstruct the stream of flow. So suddenly a road has been constructed for like 10 years, it's functioning properly. And then 11th year, the road start to flood. It couldn't be that the engineer didn't do what is right, because the contractor will do the design. In the event where he's the one who's doing design and build, the consultant will vet his design. Every single detail is vetted, sent to the agency, in this case, the Ghana Authority or the Urban Roads. They vet every detail before approval is given for the contractor to go and construct. It cannot be that from this sequence, they will be wrong. So,
but when you say that, so why do we have open drains in the city?
You need to have open drains.
I have been to cities in the West where you even know that there's gutter under you.
In your current situation, you need to have open drains at a point.
Why?
When you have areas abutting the road and they are on high elevations, and it's not been lined, if there's no even they don't have any horticulture grassing. Once it's raining, it will bring all the debris onto the road, into the ditches. And you have this penchant of Ghanaians always saying that our maintenance culture is a problem. If I sleeve all the drains and I leave those weep holes, what it means is that I wouldn't know that what is the extent of deposit of the silt from the adjoining land. In an area where the land rather moves backwards, you may have only the road width to deal with, so you can have those areas covered. That's why you see some of the roads in the country, others are covered, others are not covered. You cannot cover Abofu. You cannot cover Achimota Christian Village area because they are picking their salt from Ajimenti, Brekusu, and then Abukubi Enclaves. So we have lined our drains from Odo towards Abofu here, just around Achimota here. And the rest of the 7 kilometers has not been lined yet. So if I decide to cover this place, at what time I need to be discharging the debris inside the catchment area, it's a problem. But if we are lining all our adjoining lands, we are greening them, it means that when it rains, the discharge that will come into the drains are with some fine water, with some minimal silt deposit. But they don't have it. Unless you start to consciously line all the side of your roads, your drainage areas, before you can think of slabbing all your drains, so that you have what we call the routine maintenance, where those sleeves will be removed and then you distill them. Okay. You get it?
Let me bring Koside. So the human nature or the attitudinal issue we all know about. So if the engineering is right, is it the case that the attitudinal issue is the only reason we are seeing the problem we are seeing?
No, it's also an issue of enforcement. But let me just pick up from where Engineer Mahama left off. Look at the major ceremonial street in Ghana, the Liberation Road. Then look at the Ring Road. They all have covered drains. But what happens when it rains? They all get flooded now. So the solution is not just covered drains. Okay. It's also about maintenance and the enforcement of law. So when you look around that's why I brought a copy of this law here, the building regulations, LI 2465. And then you have the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act, 2016. Now, these are things that are supposed to regulate infrastructural development. Now, if we don't enforce these laws, then we cannot control flooding.
Who is supposed to implement these?
Now, mostly everything rests with assemblies. Now, I say again that every inch of land in this country falls under one assembly or the other. So for assemblies to make excuses that we didn't know this was happening, it's completely unacceptable. You understand?
Assemblies have engineers, don't they?
They are supposed to. I don't know if all of them have, but they are supposed to have engineers.
Because
apart from engineers, they are supposed to have planners, they are supposed to have architects, all people involved in the built environment space, they are supposed to have them. As to whether they have them, I don't have that answer. But the point I seek to make is that if we don't enforce laws, you cannot do anything right. Now, we need to understand the science behind flooding. Every single land that you cover has an impact on flooding. So people now quickly say, oh, since 1960, we haven't been able to deal with flooding. The 1960s flooding was an exceptional rainfall. So if you look from 1960, how often do you have flooding in Accra? It's not been consistent. But now, in recent years, Accra is every single year you have flooding because we do not control development properly. And we think that the modern thing is to pave every space. So I live in Kolebu. I've lived there for over 10 years. Go and see Kolebu now. It floods regularly because we keep paving all the spaces around. We cut the neem trees. We develop new spaces. Every roofing sheet that you put up increases runoff water. Every place that you pave with all these things increases runoff water. Now, if you go around this country, look at all the gutters that were seated in residential areas. Have we resized those gutters? No, we haven't. But we keep introducing more runoff water into those. That's why the gutters overflow. So this comes down to enforcing planning law. You see, when you want to put up a building, that is the reason why the assembly must give you a permit. When the assembly is giving you a permit, it must determine that even runoff water that is going to come from your house, is the gutter in front of your house able to accept that runoff water? Okay. Where the gutter cannot accept it, the municipal authority must come out with a plan to say that maybe you need to pay, especially if it's a commercial facility, you need to pay for the expansion of that drainage. Or they may then go up and say, no, maybe you need to have a catchment within your own compound. So the municipal assembly has to think, exactly, the municipal assembly has to be innovative in prescribing what has to be done to prevent flooding. So when the municipal is not being innovative, then you have the crisis we have in Accra. But beyond that, Accra itself is a low-lying terrain. Topographically, it's low-lying. So the ability to resist flooding is low in itself. So until you need to take cognizance of all this in ensuring that when people are putting up buildings, we just don't say humanitarian, so everybody is putting up roofs everywhere. Land that is not authorized, people are putting up buildings, paving the place, and everybody is looking on. Look at all the estate development. Most of the new buildings that are, they've paved every space. And yet the law says, no, you cannot do that.
I think there's a percentage that you're supposed to in your house.
And Article 50, LI 57 says it very clearly, percentages that you can pave and you cannot pave. And yet, we are allowing all this to happen. Go to East Legon, come to everywhere. We are paving every inch of space within the house. Exactly, even putting tiles. Look at the airport city area with tiles. I mean, how does water go into the ground? So these are the things that we need to be concerned about.
Let me bring in Desmond again. Desmond, you have worked at the city before, at the city authority, so the AMA. Is it the case that they don't know, or they don't have the capacity, or they don't care?
I don't think it's about not caring. I think, and it's also not knowing. You know, I think that they do know, the city authorities do know. I think there's a challenge in our system with enforcement. And the enforcement is in different phases. For instance, as I mentioned earlier, what are the things that are leading to it? What the engineer has mentioned is one leg of it. And so in that space, there needs to be enforcement, but the regulations are quite clear. 35. And I see it as an opportunity for even the city or the assemblies to be making money. Because if you're supposed to have 35% unpaved, let's say, and we come to your space and you've paved the whole place, this is an opportunity for some penalties and the like. And so Now that the cities need, the authorities need money to engage in this, I think that there's room for that. If we don't make enforcement a way to raise money, I think the incentive to get it done reduces. But if 30% or so of the city's budget is coming from penalties, and penalties from breaches of the rules, because on paper, it will show that it's all correct. The Assembly has issued a permit based on the documentation that was submitted, based on the zoning and the rest. So on paper, it's great. But in actuality, when you go to ground, you see that what has been done is different. And I think that is part of, engineer mentioned about innovation. I think there should be some innovation in using that as a tool to generate some revenue to undertake the development that we need. Because truthfully, the quantum of development that we have now, Accra has expanded over 40% in the last maybe 10, 20 years. That alone is a challenge. Then you add in the nature of the expansion that we are having, where we are tiling and really making every place to have runoffs. Then we have the added issue of climate change, which is making it, this is May. Actually, the rainy season.
It shouldn't be raining.
No, it should be raining, but not
I
the
thought it's
quantum
July,
that we have.
June, July.
That is where we have the heavy ones. But
it is not even heavy in Pony.
This is not heavy. This is not the season for heavy.
Okay.
This is the start of the season. So the heavy one is coming. And then we need to be prepared because the runoff, engineer mentioned, which there's a study we did which was showing how much Accra has lost the space, the greening space. And go to the more affluent areas now, and it's virtually, it's a show of class that you've paved your zone. And you're having runoff. You now mentioned about gutter in front of houses. How many houses in Accra have gutters in front of them? Virtually just a small percentage. So there should be a conscious effort at enforcement. And it shouldn't come when we are in the season. Yesterday I heard from some quarters about we're going to clear the drains and the like. We are in it. I mean, you know the other users, you know, so you prepare. We are lucky. Even with climate change, our seasons have not shifted so much that we know that from May, we're going to begin to have much heavier rains. We prepare, but we don't. What we do is a more reactive approach that we are using. And so I think the rules are there. We always say put a human face. When the majority of the people are suffering, it is not about human face. It's about taking decisive action and implementing it so that we can make a headway.
I'll come back to you, engineers. I want to hear from the politicians because we're talking about enforcement and they have the political authority. Honorable, you are a member of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly by virtue of you being an MP, ex-official member. I don't know how often you are supposed to go to that place because you have to come all the way to Accra to do parliamentary work. But the attitude of the assemblies appears to be the problem. Is it that they don't have the capacity based on all you know? How, or your place doesn't flood, so you are safe?
My brother Desmond said something which I would want to speak to. The problem, very respectfully, in my view, is a mixed bag of many things. But one of them, in my view, is failure in regulation. And increasingly, I'm beginning to have the sense that regulation is failing in Ghana because we make money. We put money, you know, at the heart of it. Where, for instance, you said that we'll be able to generate a lot of money, revenue through penalties and so on and so
indiscipline.
Forth. That is where the problem has been. You see, the problem should be we are making sure it works because of us. That is when you put the human being at the center of it. We don't prioritize the human being in this country. That is why regulation is failing. Even with the grant of permits, it's become a revenue generation for the assemblies, and it is wrong. And so when you make penalty, enforcement, when you tie enforcement to revenue generation, that is going to be another problem.
But that would be a good incentive. In Dubai, when you jump the red light, they collect money from you. We park at the wrong place, they collect money from you.
They do that
so people don't do it.
Deter you, not because you want the assembly to make money.
Win-win.
They are two different things. You see, we should appreciate it from the perspective of deterrence rather than we want to generate money. And that is why when you want a building permit today, the focus is that let's make money off it. What we need to inspect, what we need to review, we don't do them. Likewise, when it comes to penalty, somebody would say, oh, well, as for these people, once you pay, they will leave you. And so they will come for the money and go away.
But that's under the table, though. It's not the official payment channel.
However you want to look at it, even if it is the official payment channel, somebody can say, okay, give me 10 cedis and I'll leave you. It's 20. Give me 10 cedis, I'll leave you. We'll not come and worry you again. Or somebody might make friends within the assembly. And so let's put the interest of the Ghanaian, the human being, how it affects our way of life. Let's make it a priority and say, this is not good for the human being. We will not allow it. Now, when you look at this country, we now have 261 district assemblies. We have as many assemblies as constituencies. And still we are facing this problem. From the discussion this morning, two things can cause the flooding. Two things, if you sum it up. The first one being improperly constructed roads or improperly constructed public infrastructure. And the second one being our attitudes. He cited the example of the N1 from Dimples to Tetekwashi, where 5 years ago there was no flooding, but today there's flooding. That tells you that there has been an alteration in the way we live, and therefore that has impacted it over a period of time. Who is supposed to check this? It is the district assemblies. And so when you have 261 district assemblies, right, and you realize that the more assemblies you are creating, right, the more the situation gets worse, then it means that there's a failure in leadership at the local level. What is the problem? The problem really and truly, in my view, is that we are not even appointing the right people at that level. It has become compensation for people for one thing, reason or the other, more than appointing people who are capable hands. That really is the problem. Because, look, the district assemblies, if you have the right people, they will make sure it is manned by the right people in terms of the various departments, including the engineering. The problem we have is an engineering problem that must be solved by engineers. It can be detected by the engineers when there's an alteration in the way we live from the outset. So we deal with it.
But there's no political will, and the politician is the head of the assembly. So even if the engineer determines that the thing is wrong, it won't work, because if the DCE doesn't submit to it, it fails.
Firstly, in having this discussion, if we can all around this table admit that it is a political problem, because when we first construct the roads, right, they don't have the problem that we have today, then there's a political problem. The second point is that even when you construct a road or public infrastructure poorly, that results in flooding, that is still a political problem, because the consultant is the consultant of the state, and not the consultant necessarily of the government, of the contractor. The consultant is not employed by the contractor, it's employed by the state as the intermediary between itself and the contractor. And so the consultant will report to his boss that this is the problem. If this is the problem and it cannot be fixed, why can't it be fixed? Because the politician is sleeping.
Okay.
And so it is leadership problem at various levels, at the local governance level.
There's something you said which got Desmond shaking his head vehemently. I don't know. I want to hear his disagreement with you.
Well, I think that the point of disagreement is about the revenue generation. Policy should be in context. And our context is that we make nice regulations that we cannot enforce. And part of the inability to enforce is because people just don't want to obey it. And so you make the opportunity to generate revenue out of the indiscipline, because that is one of the ways that you correct the system. Let's use an example. In the UK, in fact, you said Dubai, so let's just use Dubai. It says that red light, you stop. If you don't stop and you are caught, you pay a fine. The reason why you would stop is because you don't want to pay the fine. And there are so many engineering interventions that you put in place to ensure that if somebody breaks that rule, you will be able to catch it. And in so many jurisdictions around the world, penalties and fines are a source of revenue and well defined.
Let me help.
To help to address the challenge. What we have in our countries is not a lack of the regulations. In fact, our setup from the national to the local government level is properly set up. We're all pointing to Rwanda, and you go there and they tell you we came to understand the Ghana's local governance system. What it is that how we implement is getting us shortchanged. And so if all our rules are saying you should have 35% permeable surface in your zone, and you choose by your own volition to go and make it 95 impermeable, you should be fine. In fact, sometimes I wonder why the state is the cost of some of these corrections. Because it should be the person or persons who have consciously made the decision. Like Honorable mentioned about the permitting system. I have yet to hear of any Dansoman issue. Let's just put Dansoman. I have yet to hear about any official who has been put to charge that he signed the permit knowing that Otojo is supposed to be a flood reservation. So we are not, and how do you get them to do right? You put a certain punishment there, and the punishment, paying a fine is part of that punishment regime.
Let me just help. So Honorable, just in 3 or 4 years ago, we are here started something called War Against Indiscipline, where we decided to put cameras on the motorway and other places where people who engage in unapproved usage of the road were arrested by the police right there on camera, taken to court. And we made so much money for the state. During that period, people were driving like angels. But after we and the police pulled off, everything went back.
That is why we need a reorientation of our minds. There are fines in our laws. Who is supposed to enforce them? Let's take, for instance, road traffic offenses. It's the police. They will arrest you. You'll be arraigned before court. The police will rather take money there, right, and deny the state the fines. And so you made mention of context. You have to look at the Ghanaian context. What works elsewhere may not work here over a period of time. There are a lot of regulatory agencies who would rather, right, their staff, they would rather take the money than making sure that the fine is rather enforced. It is common knowledge. And that is why we need to begin to let people see the consequence of the actions of the regulatory agencies. That is why I said, let's drum it home that it is about you, it's about me, it's about the human being. That, look, your failure is resulting in the death of people. Unless you make this the priority, it won't change anything. And that is why I think that we should emphasize less on revenue generation when it comes to enforcement, to consequences of our actions. That because of you, somebody has died. That because of you, somebody has fallen ill. That because of what you failed to do, this is what has come.
Deal with the conscience of the people.
Deal with the conscience of the people. Right. Because we all go to church, we all go to the mosque.
Bernard, what's your take as a politician on this matter?
Well, I've been listening to, I've heard Honorable. I've also been listening to the technocrat.
I've heard both parties.
He has heard both parties.
Yes. Honorable, just before this is important, please, the earlier discussion. Sorry. Sorry. Just for the issue, I had to do it, but I think I forgot. The issue of the quorum. Yes, so the presumption aspect of it, bit of it. It is, I was referring to the operational, like when you check 102 and the decision you've read, fine. But the operationalization of the 102 is captured in 64 of our standing orders, that somebody would have to raise it.
That is not a presumption.
No, it is. So please, somebody would have to raise it. Okay. If you don't raise it, we proceed, and this.
No problem.
So let me now.
Please, let's talk about flooding.
Now flooding. You see, I've heard Honorable, and then the technocrat. I think that it's a problem of many. Well, if I may put it this way, sources. One, the people themselves. I'm one of them. I think that we need to be careful. Look, the way we go about doing things in this country, as if there is no tomorrow. The way we use land in this country is a terrible one. Look, we were talking about permits. Somebody goes to the assembly. Look, let me also say that not all we see out there have the supposed permits. Some don't even have them. They build with sometimes macho men around securing the place for them. Nobody can dare come. Sometimes some people even find ways of compromising the authorities, and then they proceed. So if you are to ask about how they actually got what they have or how they even got to build, they will not be able to tell you. Nobody is asking them questions because there is nobody who is ready to do that. The people are virtually compromised. The other issue for me, and I do not really subscribe to what Honorable said about not focusing so much on revenue. We have to. Because you see, you can't give permit for free. And the permit is not just a warrant to you to just build anyhow. It is a document that is given to you by the assembly, for which reason the assembly would know that this is what is going on there. It shouldn't end there ordinarily. They have to be inspecting from time to time what actually is happening there. But if we don't give you the permit, if you don't take the permit, how would we even know you are somewhere doing this? The issue about politics, I don't subscribe to. You see, we do this thing, I wish he was here. And we take unnecessary blame. How many, is it the DC that signs the permit?
Is a district engineer, right?
No, yes. So you see, if you have work to do, do it. If anybody comes to you and says you shouldn't, then Umaru Sanda would ask the person who asks you not to do it questions. But we all defer. Meanwhile, they know that it is often the technocrats down there who give some of these unauthorized.
But it's the politicians who intervene or
no, but you see, and that is why, look, I mean, it will happen. Look, let's not kid ourselves. It will happen every day. But that is why some of you are there. You call them out. If we start doing that, because otherwise this problem, there would always be politicians. Or you don't want us to do,
democracy.
There would always be politicians. But this is what we do. We always carry this problem, because of politics. Then people are down there doing all kinds of things. Most often, the technocrats aid the people to do it. And then they will tell you it's because the politicians don't allow us or they intervene. If they intervene, Umaru Sanda and Co. will call them out. And so do your work. You are, look, this regulation, regulation 2465, it has over 207 regulations in it, just covering building regulations. We have enough laws in this country. It's more than enough. It's about enforcement. Look, the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act 2016, Act 925, it has over 200 sections regulating the land use. What else do we need?
And spatial planning.
What else do we need?
The city is not planned.
It's not planned. Whose duty is it? This is supposed to be enforced by someone.
Politicians.
No, it's not necessarily politicians. No. Otherwise, we will never succeed. I would wish that whoever is an engineer anywhere, do your work. Do what you have been asked to do and you are paid for. Yes. If any politician seeks to come, you see, otherwise we will never. The reason we are not moving on is because we put meanwhile, the politician is not a technocrat. You do what is expected of you. Okay. If anybody decides to bring you down or decides not to allow you work, sometimes you have a few of them who are very tough, who do it regardless. Sometimes we politicians would even go to my brother, Professor Lord Mensah, now the head of service at the local government, there, transfer this person for me, and he won't do it. I'll tell you on authority that he won't do it. The people are still there working. So being tough and going about doing your work in the legitimate way will never take you. Oh, Umaru, I'm done.
No, I want to. You've No, I'll come back to you. But I see because you put the ball in their court, I want to hear from them again. I'll come back to you. Let me start with Koside.
Yeah, I don't believe in this politician.
Okay, Koside, after you, you were a politician. I don't know if you still are a politician, but you're also an engineer. So is the engineer to blame? That's what he thinks. Don't hide behind the politician. I want to hear from the three of you before.
I guess Muhammad knows my position. I think that I very much agree with him. Technocrats are making excuses that are not justified.
Okay.
Do your work. Look, because unfortunately, or I say unfortunately because I've never worked in the public sector. But I always tell my friends, my colleagues in the public sector, do your work. Because your job as a technocrat in the public sector is to protect the public interest. So even if a politician says do this, you say no, it is technically not right. And you explain to the politician, because sometimes politicians don't understand. But when you simply jump up and say, oh, okay, I'll do it. No. Explain to the politician that this is not right. This is how it should be done so that we all don't have problems. And you as a politician may even suffer because of this decision. So let's not do it. But our technocrats are quick because they are seeking favors from politicians. So I always say that
it's not timidity.
No,
it's complicity.
It's complicity. It's complicity. A lot of it. And that is why I say that you count on your fingers. In the last 20, 30 years, or under the democratic system, how many public servants have been dismissed?
Nobody.
You cannot be dismissed for doing the right thing. Transfer is part of your conditions of service. So if you say because you've been transferred, that is why, because you did something, it is not acceptable.
But when you go there, you do it.
Exactly.
But they are safe. Their job is very safe.
That is why I was saddened when the Greater Accra Regional Minister came out and said some people in the local assembly have conducted themselves, but then we've transferred them to the north.
Yeah.
What kind of talk is that?
She's apologizing.
No, but apart from the apology, it sends a message that when public servants conduct themselves poorly, we don't discipline them, we transfer them. And that is unacceptable. If they have conducted themselves poorly, discipline them.
Are there disciplinary measures where
you see, that is why I talk about the connivance of the public servant. You see, under the public, you are supposed to issue warning letters at a certain number of intervals. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, the person can be dismissed. But even the supervisors will say, oh, let's leave it today. So you can't follow the processes. You cannot dismiss that person. So that is why it is difficult, because you have to go through procedures. If you don't follow the procedure, but all of exactly because people don't act properly, and all of them sit down and cover each other. Yeah. That is a problem I have with technocrats in this country. It is a problem, and I don't mince words about it. I think that professionals are not conducting themselves. Let me give you a typical example. This Professor Akosa committee that came out, and I know the Medical and Dental Council were not happy, maybe the Ghana Medical Association. Then the nurses were also not happy. But I say that systems are built by people. So when people simply say that, oh, it's a systemic failure, I don't agree. The systems are developed by people, they are maintained by people, and they are run by people. So if there's a systemic problem, deal with it, correct it. But when you fail to correct it, and something goes wrong and you are being held accountable, you say it's a system failure, I don't accept it. So I think that technocrats must live up to their expectations. They must sit up and do what is right. When politicians come up, you say, look, this is not right. And if they need, challenge them.
Engineer Mama, you and I have had private conversations on a number of challenges you've had in trying to stand up for your right. Because they say, no, just close your eyes and do your work. Well, can you do that without any repercussions? Well, and that's what the MP is also saying. No, you could just give excuse.
I'll give some few context here. Just like Engineer Dede, I'm also fortunate not to be working in the government institution. But we all know that we have friends in the government institutions who, unfortunately to the MP, what they said about the transport activity, it happens. There are engineers or planners at the various assemblies, and I think 2 days ago, I mentioned on one of the other stations that we'll be compelled to mention names. Some of them were so frustrated that because they stood to do the work right in the assemblies, they were transferred. And if you say the local government service is not that, I pray that the one who is now currently chairing the place may be different from others.
He won't do it.
Because it happens rampant. Yeah. So in as much as I agree with Dede, I have a small reservation on one aspect. You see, the transfers of these planners or built environment experts, I think they have about 4 to 6 years within to be an assembly.
Yes, that's true.
But now I want to put it to the honorable and including the media. If we see, let's be very blunt with this. If we see engineers at the assembly being transferred in a year or less than a year of assuming office, or there's let's say a change of government, the media should do a lot of digging to find out why some of them are being transferred. Because I'll put it on record. One of my colleagues who is in the private, the government sector, he's now in Canada. They have actually absorbed him because he stood his grounds. And there are communication between an MP and the then local service ministry, what are the heads? Head of service. Okay? And this guy was transferred to a Utu area. And then when he got frustrated, the Canadians welcomed him, that you will do a good work in our country. 1.5 years now he's in Canada. So it happens. Because see, the fact that people are supposed to be transferred, I get it. But they will tell in the face that if you don't make sure that this building is sited here, this person was part of those who were financiers, or this is a friend of this person and that person, we shouldn't be hiding behind what is happening. And they'll take you from Accra to Tumu. It's a place. But you see, the sudden transfer of families, if you understand the impact that
it becomes a punishment.
The kids of that family endure from maybe Ayawaso West. The person moves to Wenchi, he moves to Sablugu, he moves to Boli. Do you understand what you are doing to the family? Because the guy is standing on his ground. But I want to go to the media. I think we shouldn't be ending our reports. It's telecast and everything goes back to sleep. In fact, last year, April, I was on Agenda. And I gave them videos and pictures of what is happening at Abokobi Enclave, the basin. Honorable, I want to take this down for me. Abokobi, the basin. In fact, in the 2015 to 2019 other general report that was brought out in 2021, there were 18 retention ponds that were supposed to have been constructed. None has been constructed.
To collect water from every...
To collect water, I'm coming. So if you say, they were saying, Accra is a low-lying area, admitted, because we have 3 boundaries of Accra. The eastern part of Accra is the McCarthy Hills. It's a hill.
That's western part, you mean?
The western part. Now, the northern part is Amasaman, Pukwase, Ebri, and Sawam. When you go to the eastern part, you have Abokobi, Ajimenti, then to Brekusu. In Professor Mamu's report about 10 years ago, he said it takes about 12 hours for water to travel from Ebri when it rains to Accra. Now it takes under 1 hour. So in the absence of the retention ponds that is missing in the other general report, which I want the Honourable to pick it up for us in Parliament, if we continue to do the Gary project expansions, so let's say you have 10 million litres of expansion to do in the Gary project to contain the water, but yet you have decided to unfortunately cover 18 million litres of water. And the Abokobi Basin is 1.2 kilometers away from the police station and about 1 kilometer away from the assembly. Now, the assembly is also getting its own phase of the brand. They are getting flooded. Gais, part of Gais is flooding because they have all watched on, and the biggest basin has been filled. As of now, there are warehouses
built on it.
Finished. So I want...
So this was supposed to be a place we should collect water?
Yes, so this is a natural basin that the creator did on
okay. It wasn't Nkrumah built?
No. So the creator did his valleys and mountains, only that when the water is coming down, it will just receive... You see, the global warming you spoke about. Now the sea is rising by the day. Every year is about 2 millimeters high. Now what it means is that when even the Odo is desilted, you need to have a retention period before the sea can absorb the water.
And I can't take all.
Of course, because it's already high than your drain. So if you don't have a place to retain the water and periodically discharge the water to Accra, let me give you this scenario. I think if we are becoming a bit passive, we're not getting the results. Let's if you look at Abokobi Enclave I'm talking about. I did a Lions sports complex for them in 2019. So I was just vested in that area. Now from Abokobi Enclave, you move through that side there, the basin moves to the back of the Pantan Hospital. It comes towards Agboba Hospital, the top Eba. Now behind the top, there's this big line drain. that comes through to Atomic Commission. Now, for Atomic Police Station area, it's supposed to go behind Aboko Domi, then go through the Christian village, through Abofo, and get to Caprice into the Dodo. Now, if you are going to cover the 18,000 liters or 18 million liters of basin, and you are doing the Gary project in Accra, you are not working. And this one is not only the advocates here who can do that. We can come and passionately discharge our...
That's a policy issue.
But the policy is from government. Now, I'm not done. Please, I'm coming.
Okay.
I'm coming. So look at the one I spoke about, the media. I want the media to have a certain... is it like where you have your suggestions placed? Let's have that kind of portal where people in their various districts can be sending information to a dedicated area where the media, like you said, the war against indiscipline, it brought some sanity into the system. If I know I'm at the assembly and I know Sanda will come with the cameras to come and say, how come this place has been filled? It used to be green. How come suddenly it has been filled and there's a building sitting on it as an MC? Well, the MC chairs the permit committee.
Okay.
Because the MC is the chairperson, and then the coordinating director in his absence chairs. Then we have the physical plan officer, the NADMO is part, fire service is part. We have the West Head, and 2 members of the assembly co-opted. In the event where the assembly is bereft with technology or technical prowess, they are mandated by law to have a specialist to sit in. The other person doesn't vote, but he will give you all the suggestions or advice. Then, based on that, you take a decision at the assembly. This thing is happening too many. Just 2 days ago, when Stalimati was on Kesman speaking, he said when they go to the Wager area, there were houses in the spilled area, and people were standing on the roof. In fact, the water was at the lintel level. There were carpenters who were on top of the roof, the building roofing. That's about 2 days ago.
They were dead before.
No, but you see, but for the fact that you have come and the rain is almost at the lintel level, and somebody's on the top of the roofing. Then the last thing is this. You see, we have this our normal WhatsApp where you can give you somebody your current location. Yeah. I'll say it here. We can take that up. We don't want any fee. Can you have a place where people will be submitting their local area where they suspect that there used to be a green? You give it to us. We'll use the Google Earth. I'll be able to tell you that 5 years ago, that whole place used to be a wetland. And I'm surprised that when the minister, I've just applauded the Greater Accra Minister for what she has started doing. But you see, we allow the technocrat to do the unwanted things at the assembly and other places. And then the minister is now coming to spearhead the demolition, and he's branded in a certain way. Now, when he finished and they are doing the demolition at the Ramsey side, regrettably, we have the kingmakers leading the campaign that they should give in the land, the Ramsey site at Sakumono, to be put to have buildings springing up like mushrooms on the Ramsey site. We have only 5 Ramsey sites in Accra. The Wager, the Sakumono, that of the whole area, the lake, where we had this tidal waves and that got a lot of houses. The Fay area, was it there?
Oh, you are talking about
yeah, that of there. So you see, we shouldn't allow any kingmaker to take over wetlands in Ghana. It should, and our applaud the minister should be ruthless in the demolition of houses. If we don't get to that stage, all of us will be living in Accra, and will leave Accra for those who want to stay here.
Desmond, what is the Wager problem? Is it the case that the people had their houses there before the water started being opened? Or how do we deal with Wager?
I think the Wager problem.
Because Tetegu is a whole town. Are we saying that the people of Tetegu shouldn't have been at Tetegu?
I think there are some portions of Tetegu that they shouldn't have had houses, and majority of those houses came to meet the dam. And just a couple of years ago, the Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, I think that's it, was in that area and was identified the buffer zone which was being encroached. I think if we go there now, we'll see that it's even been encroached further than what it was before.
So let me understand this. The Wager used to be, that's River Densu, right?
Densu, yes.
So the river used to flow into the sea.
Yes.
Then we came to dam it. We were putting a block. So where it used to pass shouldn't have buildings because that's where we release the water to pass.
Some parts of it. It's not the whole.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's where the water ordinarily used to pass.
Yes.
Can't we have a big pipe or some drain straight to the sea?
It is the volumes. You know, there are volumes. These are all volumes. It's like you pouring water. Sometimes I think of the flooding as if when you open the sink, your tap in the sink. And because there's so much water coming at a go, it feels as if it's flooded because the outlet is so small. But after a period or when you stop, it will go down. So the key is the retention. And as engineer was mentioning, there are so many retention ponds, natural retention ponds, some that were also constructed, which we have kind of discarded. And under the Garrett project, I'm glad you mentioned Garrett, because in Garrett, they were looking all the way up to the mountains, and there were things to be done. And as his charge are honorable, and I think maybe just not just you, but the other committees that have that responsibility to be able to go deeper into it. And there are other things where we've made commitments, but we are not following through. So on the other question, I know that's not what you asked me now, but because I made some points, I wanted to chip in. One, you were asking about how we get some of these things sorted. One is the public sector reform that goes on. I mean, what reform have we been doing? Are we doing just structural reforms, or we are doing also the people orientation reforms? Because most of the people in the public sector, I believe they are great guys. We work with some great people. But we should remember that the public sector, as the parliamentarians always remind us, is a service of records. So if you put your records and you put your assessment all written down, you pass it on, and I've worked with a mayor before, you put it in the report and you submit. Then that becomes the basis of how they take their decisions. But if you just do word of mouth, then it's as if what you are saying is not your professional opinion. Because I don't think any engineer worth their salt, or salt, I don't know which one it is, would put a wrong report to their name, or put their name to a wrong report. They would put the right in there. And that becomes the decision that I know politicians, knowing that it will come back to bite them, would not want to go on that tangent. But do we see that? I don't think we do. I think what we see is that a lot of our technocrats just want to go and have a conversation about the issue and think that that is the answer. It is not.
Oh, even sometimes without some it's deliberate.
It's deliberate.
They do things behind the scenes, and you see, you much as we try to impute whatever motive to politicians for those as public servants or technocrats who are doing well, and then we say that they try to move them around. Some of the technocrats are I see.
They're not accountable.
I know a lot of things happening elsewhere where, and that is why the minister spoke the way he spoke, even though it wasn't really palatable in the years of, because sometimes some of the transfers, whether from the north to the south or otherwise, it comes because of the security of tenure. Sometimes you wouldn't want to go through that long route. And that you think that by at least, because somebody has been there for years, even before the politician came. And so the politician sometimes would have to rely on his, and the people know, and they are a team. They know how to maneuver to get things done down there. And you, the politician, will be there. Sometimes they speak as if the politician does everything. It's not true. The people down there, they will do it. You come, they will force you to understand it. If you raise issues, yes, they will force you to understand. I know what I'm saying. Some of the issues, so when it gets to, at some point, the politician thinks that, no, these people are doing all kinds of things behind my back. They should leave. Otherwise, and then when new people are brought, certainly they would have to now understudy the terrain. And the politician would then be ahead. But when you come and meet them like that, it's not easy. I am telling you, senior, how many politicians are at the assembly? You may talk about all the committees. If the technocrats want to work and work well, and like he said, if they produce reports.
But we not say leaders really define everything, so that we always have certain mayors of Accra that we celebrate, and it's because of their personality, strong men. So can we not have a strong leader who will change everything regardless?
What is a strong leader? Look, I am learning a lot here, even though I'm a trained lawyer. I have other degrees. But I'm learning a lot here. Assuming I'm appointed to be an MC somewhere, I do not have the kind of information or knowledge they do. But you see, no, I'm saying that. So, no, you hold it. I'm making a point. If I'm appointed there and I go to meet some of these technocrats who have this, except they volunteer to be genuine, You can't trust their whatever.
But
and they
see,
may do things, and I may be there, may not even know how some of these things are done.
But you see,
I'm saying that if they really want to work,
they can do it.
They can do it. They should stop giving those excuses.
Okay. I think the leadership should create the avenue for the technocrats to feel comfortable.
Like
to
what?
give
What
it.
avenue?
I mean, if you get
because the DCMC
No.
has no authority over, and it's for a reason.
No,
They have no authority
chief. They
over
call
what?
the DC
No,
chief.
you can't.
You know what a chief is.
What happens to them? In fact, you know because he doesn't employ or fire you.
no.
It's true. You see these things we do.
You see?
I know what you are talking about, but you see,
you need to create. You need to.
You know we are in the middle, so we have to. But I'm just telling you that this happens.
Yes, but you need to.
You are right by saying that people should be able to work. And I also want to plead that sometimes you can also have your very silent person behind the scene to also be helping you. If you feel like you don't trust them, it's not about all about transfers or getting people. You can have your.
You tried that at your own risk.
You get
Look,
somebody.
if they see that you have a private person,
but then that's where
what is happening?
Let me hear from Kosi then because we are
Yeah,
wrapping
you
up.
see, I think that first, leadership is key. That is true. Leadership is key. And leadership creates an atmosphere for the technocrats to come out and. But when you are a professional, you also take an oath to the profession to do what is right. So why I sometimes sound a bit tough on professionals generally is to say that document. You don't go and have conversations.
Record.
So when you say that this building or this infrastructure should be this, document it. Don't go and talk to the municipal chief executive and say, oh, I've told him. No. Document it because you are giving a professional opinion. So document it. And that is what they run away from. And this is where they play tricks on the leadership. Because they don't document things. Then they'll come and say, oh, but I told you. Document it because that is your evidence. That is the instruction you are giving. That's the professional advice you are offering.
All right.
You see, but let me add this. You see, at the end of the day, infrastructure is expensive. And infrastructure must lead to increased productivity. Just yesterday, the chair of the National Development Commission put out there that productivity in Ghana is about $5-something per hour, while global average is about $23-something. Now, if you don't have proper infrastructure, you cannot improve productivity.
No checks.
So when we simply every day say, oh, let's put a building here. And unfortunately, our politicians, and this has passed on to leadership at every level, thinks that their performance must be measured by how much concrete they have poured or how much asphalt they have laid. So every chief executive, every politician thinks that I must make sure concrete is poured somewhere. I must make sure that asphalt is laid. And that is how my
Physical,
office
tangible.
exactly will be made. So instead of us planning and making sure that the infrastructure delivers service, we are simply pouring concrete anywhere we can identify. So you go to universities. Look, my own Tech is doing infilling. Go to Tech today and Tech gets flooded simply because we have no resized gutters. And yet we are putting buildings in there. So, and this is the University of Science and Technology.
The foundation.
Exactly. So when you are putting in more structures, look at your gutters.
Okay.
And say, do we need to resize them and resize them? So when Tech itself is doing the wrong thing, you can understand what is happening to the whole nation because the universities must display the future that we want as a nation.
Okay. We need to go, but gentlemen, I have a question that I'm going to ask and all of you would answer around the table that we leave. What's the one thing that you would want to see done or changed so that we have a proper resilient Accra, an Accra where we will not be having the hashtag Accra floods in the future? So what's the one thing that needs to be done by who? Where? Let me start with you. We'll go around one minute each.
So now, where I think some of our people are at fault is in the law. I think the rezoning. Because in the national it's about 20 years, region 20 years. It comes down to the local, it's 5 years. So sometimes you see some of the areas being rezoned for just maybe a two plot, 3 plot have been rezoned, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
What does the rezoning mean?
Like we are trying to zone that this is a mini industrial hub,
okay,
or a residential area.
Then you change it into residential.
And they can just zone about 2-3 plots, and that I'm sure honorable will pick it up for me. If he sees that somebody rezoning in his area and 1 or 2 plots have been rezoned, you can't rezone 1, 2 plots. It's a whole area.
It should be an enclave.
The only thing I think we will respect much more is the flight height at the airport, where you know that you can't do some structure beyond a certain level because of the aeroplanes when they are coming down. The other thing is that I want the Minister for Greater Accra and the other Kufuor, the Eastern Minister, and other ministers, when they are abreast with the information given by the technocrat, they should be ruthless in the demolition of houses. Otherwise, one person's meat is another person's poison. Okay. Thank you very much.
I think I would just go back to the strategy that I mentioned. And then the pillar one is an integrated approach to infrastructure planning and service provision, because there are a lot of silo ways of doing things. And we need to have an integrated approach and build in accountability. Okay. If you see now the Public Accounts Committee holding people, mentioning their names, saying you were in this position, why can't we do that at the lower level so that we can get things moving?
Kosi?
Yeah, because everything begins with leadership. You see, our political leaders have a way of gerrymandering. So quickly they come in, let's create another region. Let's create more districts. It doesn't help for planning purposes and infrastructure development, because every district is almost like giving me a plot of land. I must plan where my bedroom is going to be, where my washroom is going to be, where my dining hall is going to be. So when you are constantly recreating districts and regions,
like Accra,
it does not allow heads of such units to plan for long term, because tomorrow they may hive off this place, they may hive off this. So I think that we need to stop that. We need to stop, because it doesn't allow for proper management of the spaces that regions and districts have.
So rezoning and then...
Exactly, all this kind of thing, it doesn't help. Okay. So leadership must understand this. Everything is connected. Infrastructure is expensive, and if you deliver the infrastructure, it must create a certain service and lead to improved product. Look at Accra at the moment. All the major roads out of Accra are under construction. And look at the time travel. Although we are spending millions of cedis building roads. I mean, that is chaos.
Okay. Bernard?
So, for me, well, the technocrats have spoken. I will still go back to enforcement. We have the laws. We have more than enough. Let us enforce them. Let everybody do his work. Is it possible, maybe maybe on the line, is it possible to have a certain registration regime where we can have all properties in Accra re-registered to know which one is where, and if actually wherever it is situated, it had the permit to be there? Is it possible we can do that? An exercise, no. You know, there has always been. But can we, for this reason, because every year we are here now, after the rains have gone and this dry season is gone, we come back, can there be maybe a certain policy direction that we want to re-register and then maybe take documentation on every property and where it is situated?
What I think they can do is that they can just map up the wetlands.
That
will solve the problem. Okay. So if you map up the wetlands, like you said earlier, you see that there are a lot of buildings sitting there without permit. Right? If you go to take the high areas, it's not necessary. But the wetlands, when the wetlands are mapped out,
the place where the water is supposed to collect it,
and look at this area used to be a wetland. Okay. What happened? So you can, and then we can. So we don't spend so much money, but we can now address a particular problem and then get.
And then I wish my brother was here to support me. Some of these things you would have to take. A bipartisan, because you see, but the politics sometimes the difficulty is that when you do it in opposition, you should give human face. Meanwhile, the next election is ahead of you.
Just one thing I want to ask you: how is our expressway doing? The one from Accra to Kuma, is it going well?
No, though, so I cannot speak to it for now because it's still under.
No, I mean, as someone who operates in that area, do you see them working?
So let me answer.
Yes,
it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Very ongoing. In fact, you know, the military, they are clearing, and it passes my constituency as well. And I've gone to see. But some serious work is ongoing.
We'll
I believe this will be.
But I don't think it's priority. That's my opinion. I don't think it should be high priority. The expressway.
Why?
You don't need it.
Look. Why can't you do a BOT on it, build, operate, and transfer? Simply because the economics don't add up.
Let's leave it here. Let's leave it here.
You know what this
is.
No, it's not a complete BOT. It's not a complete BOT.
Thank you so much. That's considered is an engineer. Engineer Abdullah Muhammad, not Abdullah. Desmond Apia is former Chief Resilience Officer of the AMA. And Honorable Bernard Bediako, NDC MP for Akwatia. Earlier, you had the Member of Parliament for Menshia Saudi, Honorable Nigeria for joining us. And also the Honorable Samonate George joined us via Zoom. Dr. Michael Akagbo joined us via Zoom. And Dr. Nanaya Miracle was also in studio earlier. I am Umaru Sanda Amadu. We'll be back next week with a big issue. Thank you so much. Stay with us.